the New Phylon Alliance had invited a galactic celebrity that was very popular in Shattered Star Ring to tour the place. The entertainment industry in the galaxy was very developed as well. There were singers, actors, and many other industries that brought entertainment to various civilizations. The different entertainment shows could be watched from the paid channel in the Galactic Communicator. Although Hanzio did not watch it much, many galactic residents spent their days watching television. The person to trigger this mission was rather special. It was indeed the galactic celebrity that had been invited. This celebrity had a huge number of fans in various star clusters in the Shattered Star Ring. He was a singer, and because of how developed the transmission technology was, his influence was not limited by physical distance. This performance was for the traditional yearly celebration of the New Phylon Alliance being reunited, and this singer was the most famous one among all the invited guests. If Hanzio wanted to come into contact with the target, it had to be at the venue, but the problem was, how are they going to get the ticket for the show? Are you going to the Union Day celebration? When Sylvia heard about the destination of their spaceship, she rolled her eyes and said, "Stop dreaming." Every year, those that can enter the venue to watch it live are all very important people. Sylvia wanted to go every year, and in fact, Langley's position had been high enough to get her into the venue. Unfortunately, he was a traitor and a spy. Now that she had become a mercenary, she would never have the chance to attend it again, so she could only bury this tiny dream of hers. "Black Star, I want to ask you for the last time," Sylvia said while shivering. She kept swallowing her saliva and spoke anxiously. "We're not really going to cause a commotion and rush into the spaceship, are we? Although I gave you my next 10 years, you don't have to cut it this short." Hanzio could not be bothered to reply. He waited patiently and silently. Now that the boarding had started, the fact that Hanzio was still there proved that he was not one of the people that was boarding. But Sylvia did not call him out on it. She was already satisfied that she could go to watch the boarding ceremony. Her father had not allowed her to go in the past, so this was the first time that she had seen the Union Day celebration spaceship so closely. Although she could not enter the spaceship, she was content. Chen Xing, Chen Xing. The cheering was thunderous. Hanzio nodded in his mind. This was the person that would trigger the mission, a singer with the stage name of Morning Star 1. From the almost ear-shattering cheer, it was clear how successful this person's celebrity career was. By the way, this person was a male. While passing by where Hanzio was, Chen Xing suddenly stopped and turned his head slowly. His eyes passed through the crowd and locked accurately onto Hanzio. The next moment, he directly walked toward this direction. The crowd instantly became feverish and wanted to touch their idol. The soldiers stopped the wave of people with all their might, and one soldier said, "Your Excellency Chen Xing, please do not come close. It's not safe here." "It's okay, they will not hurt me." Chen Xing opened his mouth. His voice was gentle, soothing, and pure like water. The people who heard it felt calm. The commotion mysteriously stopped, and he walked into the crowd. The crowd opened up a path willingly. In the end, Chen Xing stopped before Hanzio. Under the eyes of countless people, he smiled and said, "Hello, I hope to have the honor to invite you to watch my performance live at the scene personally." Chen Xing turned around, and Hanzio followed behind the group. Chen Xing's assistant contacted the organizers, and the government found Hanzio's identity very quickly. It turned out that he was a mercenary who had worked with them before and belonged to Floating Dragon. Thus, he was trustworthy, although it was not very suitable to let a mercenary into the venue. For the sake of giving Chen Xing face and the fact that Hanzio had no negative background, they agreed to let him in. Sylvia was completely stunned on the way, unable to understand what was happening and dumbfounded at the fact that she had entered the celebration venue, which she had dreamed of for years, so easily. When she finally regained consciousness, she hastily pulled Hanzio's shirt and said, "You really did it. From what I know about you, your memory isn't that bad. Maybe I should give you more books to train it." Hanzio stared at Chen Xing's back. I thought you were lying." Sylvia did not know what to say. It had happened exactly as Hanzio had said. They were invited onto the ship. However, she never would have thought that the person inviting them would be Chen Xing, and it looked like it was a last-minute decision. She suppressed her excitement and asked with anticipation, "How did you do it?" "No crowd can cover up my attractiveness." Hanzio gave a perfunctory response. The real reason, of course, was that Hanzio had with him. Chen Xing had a special sense toward the psychic current of the statue. As long as it was within a certain distance, he would definitely notice it. Hence, Hanzio had known that Chen Xing would invite him onto the ship. Hanzio was not a New Phylon citizen, so he was not very interested in the ceremonies. But the performance was indeed exciting. When it came to the last and most anticipated performance, the performer was indeed Chen Xing. All eyes were on Chen Xing. On the enormous stage, where he stood was the only place that had light, everywhere else was dark. Yet, just by standing there, he made people feel he had occupied the entire stage. The whole place was silent. The first note flew out from under Chen Xing's veil, ethereal, elegant, and pure like the voice from heaven. Her voice seemed to have created a wave of time, bringing the audience back to the ancient times, looking up at the first dawn between darkness and night, watching the first star glowing in a dim yet firm light. Before the performance, the whole audience had turned off their translators, not allowing them to stand in the way of enjoying such a pure voice. Even though they could not understand what the lyrics meant, the immensity of the voice captured every one of their hearts. The audience felt like countless images flashed past before their eyes, the origin and the end of a star, and the endless cycle of life. Along with his singing, the light on the stage started to expand. When he reached his highest note, the light also spread over the entire stage. The audiences felt a shiver from the depths of their soul that flew into their mind. What a beautiful voice! Sylvia was completely immersed in the song. Han Zio's eyes sparkled. A voice that included such strong psychic power was indeed very influential. The money spent on organizing such a huge performance is enough to buy so many spaceships. What a waste! The song had come to an end. Whether it was the audience at the scene or the audience watching from a screen, they were all engrossed in it. Chen Xing lowered his head slightly and left the stage. The overwhelming applause only came after he left. In the private room, Han Zio and Sylvia were waiting on the guest seats. The door opened with a squeak, and Chen Xing, who had just finished his performance, walked in with an apologetic smile. "Sorry for the long wait. I hope you are satisfied with my performance earlier. Your voice is a little bit better than mine." Han Zio nodded. Sylvia's eyes widened. She was shocked by how shameless he was. The most beautiful female that Han Zio had seen was Arashia, and just in terms of looks, she was only a little more beautiful than Chen Xing. However, this was a man. Exciting indeed, but he did not have such an interest. "I know you're very curious about why I invited you," Chen Xing said. "I am very curious," Han Zio said with a poker face. "No, you're not curious," Sylvia screamed in her mind. "The reason is, I have a hobby as a collector, and I like to collect some special items. You seem to have something that I want." As he was saying, Chen Xing took out a statue. Other than it having a different form, its material and size were exactly the same as what Han Zio had. Seeing the statue, Han Zio took out the that he had brought along and said with a surprised tone, "Wow, what a coincidence." Lolsh coincidence. Sylvia's expression was twisted from trying extremely hard to keep the annoyance in. "Your friend does not seem to be feeling well. Does she need to visit the washroom?" Chen Xing asked with concern. "Should I call a doctor for her?" "No need, thanks." Han Zio gave Sylvia a stare. Chen Xing shrugged and continued. "This is a set of collectibles. There were originally 4 of them. 2 of them are here, and 2 others are lost in unknown places. When one of them is a certain distance from another, its location can be sensed." He leaned back against the back of the chair in a very gentle way that did not look masculine at all. "I have just heard that you're a galactic mercenary, so I want to ask you to find the last 2 statues for me. I will pay a reward for it. How about 100,000 enas?" 100. Sylvia could hardly breathe. "That's way too generous." Han Zio was not surprised. However, it was very normal for a celebrity to be wealthy. Furthermore, one of the reasons that this mission was popular in the previous life was that the difficulty of the mission did not fit its reward. "Sure, any requests?" Han Zio gave a faint smile. "Request?" Chen Xing tapped his lips and said, "The sooner, the better, of course. You have triggered C-ranked mission." Mission introduction. A singer named Chen Xing is collecting a special set of statues. He hopes that you can find the other statues. Mission requirements. Find the other 2. Remarks. When you have 2 statues, if there is another statue within a certain distance, you will notice. Reward. Basic reward of 100,000 enas and 1,100,000 experience. After the mission is completed, grading will be given based on the time taken to complete it. The shorter it takes, the higher the rating. A bonus reward will be given. Got the mission. Han Zio narrowed his eyes. This was the mission that he wanted to trigger. It was one of the most suitable missions for him to get a high rating after he searched through his memories. Finding an item was not difficult but very time-consuming. The process was complicated, yet time was a factor in the rating given. However, to Han Zio, it was not difficult at all. Thanks to the players in his previous life, he knew the location of the last 2 statues, so he could skip the search process and obtain them directly. "For the sake of 100,000 enas, I accept the hire. Where do I find you once it's completed? My schedule is very full." Anyway, it's impossible for you to find all of them in a short time. I will give my assistant's communication number to you later. Just inform him once you complete it." Chen Xing gave a gorgeous smile. After setting the destination, the spaceship took off. As Han Zhao knew the location of the statues, he did not have to waste any time. One of the statues was buried under the ground on some desolate planet. He just had to retrieve it. Han Zhao landed on the planet, headed straight to the location, and dug out the third mysterious statue. Other than the time spent on locating the exact spot, he did not waste a single second. According to the player's experience, he had saved at least 20 days. However, the last statue had an owner. For this mission, they passed through many areas, returned to the Terralum star cluster, and entered the East River star system, Star Zone 4, Planet Secret Blue. There is a civilization on the planet. The moment Han Zhao appeared, the whole scene froze. It was deadly silent. These warriors gazed at Han Zhao like they were frozen, and shocked expressions were fixed on their faces. Even the smugglers who watched from the side opened their mouth widely in disbelief. Alien. Past space trash had all been dead objects. This was the first alive creature, an alien from the boundless universe. Horror, shock, greed, and countless emotions flashed past these warriors' face. Everyone's breath became heavier, and the same thought appeared in their minds. Have to get the alien. He's too valuable. Let me introduce myself. I'm a mercenary from space, coming to your planet to look for a wooden statue. According to my senses, that statue is in that city not far away. If you're willing to hand it over, I can give you some information about the universe in exchange. If you reject, I will take it myself. Time is limited, so I hope to hear your response before tomorrow morning. Through the translator, his words became Planet Secret Blue's language. The people were shocked, seeing that Han Zhao had no intention of slaughtering them. They had no choice but to suppress their confused thoughts, stand up carefully, and back off, stumbling with panic. The warriors from different organizations left in their own groups and did not fight again. They were in a hurry to report the situation. That was the most important matter at the moment. That night, the intel of an alien landing quickly spread into the organizations of the alive warriors. This was the first alien that had landed there. Alive. The city of ruins was astonished. The whole of Planet Secret Blue trembled. Everyone knows the situation. An alien who calls himself a mercenary has landed and is looking for an outer space object in our hands. According to the intel, he used some kind of mechanical beasts and defeated 200 rune guards with ease. He's now in the forest outside waiting for our response. What do you guys think of this? Aliens have a lot of information about the universe. He's saying that he's willing to exchange for the statue with some information. I think we can consider it, an official said. His position was similar to the king's hand. However, the object that the alien wants is definitely valuable. From his perspective, maybe he is making use of the fact that we don't understand its value and wants to exchange it for some simple information. I feel that we can't give in easily. It's best to check the statue first. You're right. The Lord of Runes nodded. Very soon, a guard brought the statue over from the inventory. It had landed on the planet many years ago and had existed since the last Lord of Runes. As they could not figure out the statue's secrets, and most of the researchers had mental issues after being in contact with it for too long, it had been sealed in the inventory and listed as an unsolvable outer space object. Due to the alien's request, they took the statue out once again. This object was definitely not ordinary. The Lord of Runes was not very willing to give it up this easily, despite not being able to uncover its secrets. This was a treasure that the alien crossed unimaginable distances to retrieve after all. The alien gave us till tomorrow. We only have one night to consider. The Lord of Runes squinted. If we can capture the alien, not only will we be able to analyze the body of a space race, but we can obtain all of his knowledge. This is an opportunity to rise above all the other organizations. The officials were divided into two sides. One side felt it was better to accept the alien's request. The other side was very greedy and wanted to capture the alien to garner all the benefits. The latter side had more supporters. We have one night, which is more than enough to gather about 10,000 guards and quietly surround that area. We can use the forbidden runes. These most elite warriors will be able to endure it. Combined with the large rune weapons, it is more than enough to defeat the alien. He definitely will not expect us to attack him. The Lord of Rune's eyes flickered as he swayed between peace and greed. In the end, he made the decision, reject the alien's request. If they could capture the alien, all the benefits would belong to them. He looked around the officials and said, "Gather the troops and bring out our strongest weapons. This is a once-in-a-thousand-years opportunity. Being too careful will only waste it. We have to capture the alien no matter what." The first beam of sunlight appeared in the sky, penetrating the forest, and landed on Han Zio, who was sitting still like a rock. Han Zio's eyelashes moved, and he opened his eyes. The refreshing, cooling morning fog landed on his skin and left a tint of wetness, making Han Zio feel slightly energized after not sleeping for the night. It's almost daytime. The enemies should arrive soon. The enormous Rune Guard army appeared from the forest in all directions. 1,000 rune bows were aimed at him, and 1,000 melee guards were slowly approaching. These 2,000 troops were just the front lines. The majority of the troops were still deeply hidden in the forest. Alien, you should be able to understand our language. And the commander of the City of Rune's Guard army, Baxus. You're surrounded. We will not harm you, provided you don't resist meaninglessly and follow us. Apparently, I have no choice but to take a trip to your city personally. Such an unwise choice. Han Zio was regretful on the surface but delighted in his heart. After gathering suggestions the previous night, they had designed many tactics for the possible methods that the alien might have. They were very prepared. Baxes recalled these tactics and felt assured. Dragging a trail of electric sparks, the compressed orbs quickly rolled out on the ground in a 100-meter radius. With the sound of mechanical gears moving, artilleries appeared instantly and started firing at the army in all directions. Countless troops fell in an instant. Han Zio took a step forward and headed toward the City of Runes. The first group of troops was buried by the infinite bullets and cannons. There were both gunpowder artilleries and electromagnetic artilleries. The bullets used by the gunpowder artilleries were all special bullets such as incendiary bullets, penetrating bullets, grenades, gas bombs, and so on. This time, 300 special soldiers stepped out of the crowd. They were wearing black armor that had 10 times more complicated rune engravings. All of their eyes were filled with veins like they were enduring enormous pain. They were the strongest warriors of the City of Runes, Black Armor Guards. Their rune armor was the highest level equipment. Only trained ace warriors could use it, yet it would still cause irreversible damage to their body. Han Zio's combat style at the moment was almost invincible when facing a large number of enemies unless they were at the same grade as him. The most important thing was that they were cheap. The ace warriors of City of Runes, the fighters that had high hopes of the army on their shoulders, were defeated without making any impact. Bax's heart sank when he saw this. The power of the alien was beyond their expectations. A deep sense of regret appeared in their hearts, but it was more than too late. They would not know how much they overestimated themselves till they faced such a tragic defeat. Activate the rune catapults. 4 weapons that looked like huge cannons were dragged out and aimed at Han Zio from afar. These were the trump card of the City of Runes. The design originated from an almost completely broken weapon from an advanced rune civilization. The City of Runes had yet to gain its full technology, and the replica that they had made only had 1/100th of its power. But it was more than enough to be their strongest weapon. The entire City of Runes only had 10 of them, and they had taken out 4 to use as the trump card against the alien. The 4 catapults shot out enormous energy arrows with a high-pitched sound, carrying their last hope. These things are not too bad. Han Zio looked at these catapults. They were quite far away and exceeded the shooting range of his artilleries. Han Zio nodded. A specially made set of compressed orbs flew out and turned into machinery parts midair. These parts combined and connected with each other. Very soon, a medium-sized electromagnetic rail cannon landed beside him. It was almost 2 men tall. Han Zio sat in the control seat, quickly locked onto the target, and started charging. The blinding electric currents gathered in the cannon's barrel. A blue electric beam crossed 1,000 meters and penetrated 3 rune catapults instantly. Everything in its path was melted. This was the giant war cannon style that Han Zio rarely used. It was usually Cannon Master equipment specifically used to deal damage. This medium-sized electromagnetic rail cannon was very powerful, and he spent quite some time to build it. It was used to deal single target damage, and every shot cost tens of enas. What power is this? Bax's lips were pale, and his face was filled with horror. The alien was outrageously powerful. The tactics that they had discussed the night before all became jokes. This shot was the last straw that shattered their hopes. The City of Rune's army finally collapsed. They threw away their armor and escaped in all directions. Some even sat frozen on the ground with a blank mind, even forgetting to run away. You have defeated enemies outnumbering you more than 10,000 to 1 alone. You have received achievement ability. When in battle, if you're alone, you will receive an 11% increase in all attributes. A rather good achievement ability. Han Zio nodded. The Lord of Runes did not sleep that night. He was anxiously waiting for the battle report. Only half an hour had passed after the decided time of starting the battle, and the battle report came from the front lines. The Lord of Runes fell onto the ground and sat there in terror. One man against an army of tens of thousands of soldiers. The army was overwhelmingly defeated. The target was completely unharmed. The face of all the officials present changed dramatically. Horror had crept onto their faces. Not long after, Hanzio finally walked out of the forest and came to the edge of the city of runes. As soon as he appeared, countless eyes focused on him with curiosity, fear, worry, and other emotions. Seeing the large crowd and the group of people who clearly were government officials, Hanzio's eyebrows twitched. His lips curled up as he could guess what their plan was. They had realized that they had messed with someone that they should not have messed with, and now they were offering the statue in exchange for forgiveness and mercy. But isn't it too late to yield? The Lord of Runes took the statue from the hands of the guard, walked forward hastily, observed Hanzio cautiously, and said with a shivering voice, "This should be what you are looking for." Not knowing what the alien was thinking, the Lord of Runes did not dare say anything else. Hanzio touched the statue. The information on the interface was correct, so this was indeed the last lost statue. When he reached out to take the statue, the Lord of Runes' body shivered visibly. His eyes met with Hanzio's eyes, and he lowered his head in horror. Glancing through the nervous crowd, Hanzio said calmly, "Don't worry, we don't kill innocents." Hearing Hanzio's words, they breathed a sigh of relief. "Let's go." Hanzio looked up at the sky. Just as the people were confused as to what he was doing, the buzzing sound of an engine came from the sky. A spaceship quickly passed through the atmosphere and came to the sky hundreds of meters above Hanzio. It shot out a blue beam and shrouded Hanzio. Hanzio's body rose as he was sucked into the spaceship before countless pairs of eyes. On the ground, the people in the city of runes were dazed. Is that the tool that the space people used to travel? It looks like a piece of machinery. Could the Iron Fire Castle's technology be the most correct one? While they were discussing, the spaceship turned around. Blue fire shot out from its tail thrusters, and it broke through the sound barrier in an instant, disappearing. The alien left just like that. But the City of Runes and other organizations on planet Secret Blue had yet to recover from its impact. Knowing what had happened to the Lord of Runes, the other organizations were glad that the alien had landed near the City of Runes instead of near them, or they would have ended up the same way. Since Hanzio arrived, only around 10 hours had passed, but the huge impact that he had brought to planet Secret Blue deeply changed this planet's perspective on the world. Their first contact with an alien was not peaceful, and there was no deep communication, but the influence that Hanzio had on them was incalculable. After all, the organizations were shocked by Hanzio's strength. They looked forward to having that power. The warriors that explored ways to train themselves saw Hanzio as a goal. They researched his actions when he fought the army, hoping to find a method to become stronger. As they saw how strong a galactic mercenary was, the various organizations on planet Secret Blue woke up to a certain extent. They felt that their internal battle was useless. Maybe in the eyes of those people in space, they were like ants fighting each other. This fueled their will to maintain peace and stop the battles. Because of this incident was recorded in the history of planet Secret Blue. The philosophers analyzed the impact that the alien had on society from different perspectives. At the same time, because they saw that the interstellar spaceship was a piece of machinery, the technology in planet Secret Blue finally showed signs of uniting. Iron Fire Castle's machinery technology became the truth that was agreed upon by all the organizations. They felt that this was the future direction that a civilization should take. Hence, they stopped research on other systems and focused on technology. Although Hanzio had been there for trouble, the influence that he had was very positive. Planet Secret Blue learned a lesson from their ignorance and wrong decisions, and they had a new understanding of how strong the people in space were, so they became more cautious. When they finally came into contact with a galactic civilization, the organizations on planet Secret Blue were extremely glad that the first alien on their planet was a mercenary who gave them a chance. If they messed with a higher level civilization when they were so arrogant, later. No, they would not even have had a later. Those were all changes that happened after the great mechanic Han left, which he was not concerned about. A few days later, the spaceship returned to the Rain Star system. After the Union Day celebration, Chen Xing stayed in the New Phylan Alliance for his tour. When he received the message from Hanzio, he was shocked and surprised. "Black Star, you've really surprised me. I never thought you would be able to find all the statues so quickly." Chen Xing was overjoyed, and his face was slightly red from his excitement. This time, Hanzio had brought everyone along. This was the first time that Herlis had met Chen Xing. Being this pretty, is he a man or a woman? I'm a man. It's natural beauty. Chen Xing heard Hurless murmur and replied with a smile. Han Zio coughed and said, I've brought the stuff. There will be more than enough time later for chit-chat. I think it's better to carry out the holy deal first. Chen Xing gave him a seductive look, chuckled, and said, so impatient. All right, I'm very satisfied with your efficiency. I'll pay double the reward to repay the surprise you've given me. Double? Wouldn't that be? Sylvia counted with her fingers, and her mouth fell open. 200,000. Calm down, don't act like you've never seen money before. Han Zio knocked her head. Celebrities were, of course, wealthy. It was nothing to be surprised about. Completed. Grading mission. Grading complete. Mission rating, unbelievable. You have received level bonus reward. Bonus 120% experience. Bonus 100,000 INAs. Random reward X1. Special item X1. You have received. Character summon card. Chen Xing, plus 688 Cha. Duration, 15 seconds. Usages, 0 divided by 3. Seeing the effect of the character summon card, Han Zio was silent. Other than the word ridiculous, he could not think of another word to describe it. 688 points of attribute boost. But in charm. Is this supposed to make the enemies lose too much blood from nosebleeds? If this boost was for intelligence, I'd go beat up a Greta right now. Han Zio's mouth twitched. He was speechless. A flirtatious smile. Are you serious? Han Zio's eyes became firm. He pulled Hurless aside and touched him here and there. What are you doing? Hurless felt a disgusting shiver and jumped away hastily. Getting some of your luck. Han Zio rubbed his hands. He knew how good his luck was. Old Hurless was at least a main character and had the lucky aura, so he was willing to believe in superstitions in such times. The great mechanic Han took a deep breath. With a solemn and serious expression, he slowly clicked on the confirm button. Randomizing. Randomizing complete. You received the random reward type. Only if the reward type was would there be a chance to obtain the mission completion card. Are you a fake main character, Old Hurless? This is just the first time. It's normal to meet a small obstacle. It's normal. Normal. Please select one from the 3 talents below. Plus 16% fire resistance. Plus 10% damage of fire element abilities. Plus 35% psychological resistance. Decreased psychological resistance needed to be immune to mental controlling debuffs. Minus 30% duration of these debuffs. Plus 21% energy recovery speed. Plus 330 energy. With just one look, Han Zio had already made a decision. Was suitable for the mage class and had a very limited effect on him. Was not bad, but it was not as practical as anything that had the advanced prefix was usually half decent. Furthermore, the psychic class could attack through the armor of the mechanic class, so this talent could largely enhance his psychological resistance. Plus, he would be able to use it on the spot. Wait a minute, why am I becoming tankier? Is there really no way for me not to be a tank? I want to deal damage, damn it. Chen Xing was staring at him with a smile, expressing his intention of sending these guests off graciously. He suppressed his emotions and could not wait to do his stuff after the mercenaries left. Han Zio reached out his hand and said, since the mission is completed, we shall get going. Sure, if there is a chance in the future, I will work with you again. Chen Xing smiled politely and grabbed Han Zio's hand. Suddenly, without any warning, Han Zio's hand locked onto his hand tightly. Han Zio abruptly pulled Chen Xing to his side before he could react. In an instant, the Void Dragon mechanical suit covered his body. Han Zio leaned back slightly, then heavily headbutted Chen Xing's face with his armored forehead. Bang! Being suddenly attacked, Chen Xing felt the world was spinning. Han Zio activated all the enhancing modules of Void Dragon. With the electromagnetic pulse controller stimulating his body, he entered the state. Together with the attribute boost from Void Dragon's combat form, his strength increased by more than 100 points. Chen Xing's resistance was not low. He finally regained focus after taking 2 charges of Void Jet sprays. His eyes turned pure white, and the surging psychic power pushed everyone away. Chen Xing opened his mouth. Psychic power flew into his voice, and the sharp high note pierced into the others' brains like a spear, causing a strong pain. They felt like the world was spinning, and their organs were distorted like they were going to vomit. Han Zio endured the pain and pounced forward. His elbow slashed onto Chen Xing's psychic shield like a tomahawk, making a loud crash of the sound barrier breaking. Then it landed on Chen Xing's pretty face. Blood splashed out from Chen Xing's nose and mouth. He held his bleeding nose and backed off in a panic. His eyes were filled with rage and shock. Hurless, go outside the door and stop the guards. Volga brothers, protect Sylvia and don't get too close to us. Hanzio spoke very quickly. The next second, the 4 statues that had fallen to the ground were grabbed by Chen Xing with his psychic power. Like a thirsty man seeing water, he pressed the statues against his forehead. A unique psychic rhythm appeared in the air. In a spectrum invisible to the human eye, the psychic current in the statues was flowing into Chen Xing's brain. His weakened psychic powers recovered extremely quickly. This was the statue's effect on Chen Xing. The psychic current in them was like a strong supplement to him that could enhance his psychic power. Items like this that received prayers over a long time could all be used by him to strengthen his powers. Hanzio's eyes sparkled. Suddenly, he activated Gila's character summon card, and a hologram of a redhead woman appeared behind him. Deals psychic damage 3 times to the enemy. Damage is based on the user's INT or MIS. Decreases all status of the target by 15%. Duration 3 hours. Usages 2 divided by 8. Dark red energy surged from Hanzio's eyes and shot straight at Chen Xing. Although he did not have the ability to enhance psychic attacks, his intelligence was very high. The heavy hit landed on his mind and caused him to lose control of his psychic powers. The psychic power that he had gathered exploded before it was launched. Blood poured out Chen Xing's nose and mouth, and his eyes turned blood red. Suddenly, his state became even worse than before he absorbed the energy from the statues. His mind became extremely slow, and his knees became weak. Chen Xing fell onto the ground and gasped for air. He grabbed a statue in disbelief. Did you do something to these? Hanzio's lips curled up. Before notifying Chen Xing, he had purchased a type of specially made mind poison on another planet and coated it on the statues. As long as anyone's psychic powers came into contact with the poison, they would be damaged and suffer decreased psychological resistance. Why are you doing this? Chen Xing clenched his teeth. Did you accept a request to assassinate me? Hanzio answered Chen Xing by grabbing onto his hair and slamming it heavily onto the floor, knocking him unconscious. Explaining is a job for the villains. We are just old Hurless. Come back here and let's retreat. Hanzio grabbed Chen Xing's clothes and threw him to the Volga brothers. Then he aimed his hands at the hotel wall and launched a maximum output void jet spray. A huge hole appeared on the outside wall of the hotel. The ground was hundreds of meters below, and about 100 meters below them was the non-stop traffic of hovering cars. Hanzio caught an opportunity and jumped down, smashing through a hovering car's roof and landing on the seat. My dear Captain, do you now have the time to explain what is going on to us laborers? He was very frustrated. How did a normal reward collection process turn into them being chased by the police all over the city? Furthermore, they had kidnapped a galactic celebrity. If it was a woman, it would be fine, but it's a man. What are you trying to do, Captain? My target is this guy. He's not as simple as he looks. We will definitely be wanted by the local police, and we might even be reported to the New Phylan Alliance's direct police department. This will damage our mercenary name. Furthermore, the Rain Star system is New Phylan Alliance's territory. What should we do? Don't worry. Hanzio looked at Chen Xing and said, that guy will speak for us, and as long as he does, we'll be fine. Are you going to threaten him? I don't think that will work. Hurless expressed his doubts. Threaten? No, there's no need for that. Hanzio smiled. He will choose to help us. Since his face was already in that state, Hanzio gave him a series of slaps as a wake-up service. Chen Xing's eyelashes shook, and he slowly opened his eyes. His pupils gradually focused, and he sat up straight. His temperament changed completely. If he was more like an alluring woman earlier, he was now completely like a masculine man. He turned to look at Hanzio and smiled calmly. There was no sign of him being furious like earlier. Hello, I have been looking at you since just now. Although you might have attacked me to kidnap me, I would still like to thank you for giving me the chance to come out and breathe some fresh air. Completely unlike his earlier feminine tone, his voice was gentle and deep. It was almost like he was a different person. Yo, you. Hurless was bewildered. Chen Xing nodded and smiled gently. Nice to meet you. My name is Adrian Kelvinson Faden. You can call me Faden. You don't have to be surprised. I'm the real owner of this body. The Chen Xing that you met is, how do I put it? I would say she is a not-so-friendly guest. Schizophrenia, paranoia, faking. The people were perplexed. What is wrong with this guy? Mind possession, Hanzio said with a low voice. A tint of surprise flashed through Faden's eyes as he heard this. He did not expect Hanzio to know the truth. I didn't expect you to realize. Then it occurred to Faden. It turned out that Hanzio had suddenly attacked him because he had discovered Chen Xing's secret. As he understood why Hanzio attacked him, he became skeptical. Why did this mercenary called Black Star help him? Mercenaries were not ones who would kindly help others without asking for anything in return. He definitely had a motive. It was impossible for psychics to possess someone whose mind was stronger than their own. As soon as a psychic successfully possesses someone's mind, they would gain control of that body, and the original owner's body would be trapped in a cell. The original owner could feel what the body was feeling but would not be able to control the body like a spectator. Chen Xing was heavily injured, and her mind was very weak, so she had to rest. Hence, Faden took over his body, and Chen Xing became a spectator. "When did you get possessed?" Herlis said curiously. "You mean, when was the last time I controlled this body?" Faden shrugged. 4 years, 9 months, 14 days, 8 hours, and 23 minutes. Oh, now it's 24 minutes. My home is in a remote star system in the Shattered Star Ring. I didn't like the completely modified main planet, so I migrated to a remote half-colonized planet. That planet is a gathering ground for the poor, also an abandoned planet in the other's eyes. However, I felt that place was more full of life than the city surrounded by iron and steel. Everything was peaceful. One day, a spaceship fell onto the land of my house, and inside was a heavily injured, unconscious woman. She was Chen Xing. I saved her and treated her wounds, but her injuries were too heavy. Before she died, she took away my body and continued living with it, then she became a celebrity. That's the gist of what happened. Faden spoke very calmly as if he did not have much hatred or anger on how his body had been taken away. He had long adapted throughout the 5 years, so there was no more resent and anger like when it first happened. Han Zio nodded. Despite the fact that Chen Xing had been crushed by him without being able to fight back, it was because her power had been heavily damaged when she extracted her soul from her body. Her strength had once been extremely close to Grade A because she changed the body. She became tremendously weaker, and almost dropped to Grade C. That was why she was collecting things like these statues. It was to recover her powers. Chen Xing was not a main character, but Faden was. Furthermore, his luck was stronger than Herlis, who was just a local main character. His luck glow was high class. Having someone so strong staying in one's mind was a standard main character storyline. Although Chen Xing took away his body, she also brought him on an unknown path. If that did not happen, Chen Xing would never have discovered how much potential he had. Furthermore, he would only face this difficult situation temporarily. Although Han Zio did not know the exact time, he knew that Faden would become stronger than Chen Xing in the future and retake his body. When Han Zio thought of this mission, he had already made a complete plan. If he could get the mission completion card, he would not mess with Chen Xing for the time being and go for promotion first. However, if he did not get the mission completion card, he would then trigger this storyline. I can help you to control your body and evict the guest in your mind, or your body will be hers again when she recovers, Han Zio said. Faden was not moved. What do you want? I believe this help does not come free. Chen Xing is very wealthy. You and her share your body, so you definitely know her account and password. I want her savings, Han Zio said. Chen Xing was indeed wealthy, but this was not the great mechanic Han's main goal. However, he could not directly say that he was interested in Faden's potential, or he would not be able to gain his trust. Targeting his money was more convincing and would make Faden lower his guard to a certain extent. After all, the body belonged to Faden. He would rather have Chen Xing control it than risk it entirely. Faden was instantly convinced. Mercenaries wanting money was more normal than anything. Faden pointed at his head and smiled bitterly. She just threatened me, saying that if I touch her savings, she will die together with me. Therefore, before her problem is dealt with, I won't be able to afford the reward. Han Zio's eyes sparkled. When he made this request, he had already guessed how Chen Xing would react to it, and this result was exactly what he wanted. He was secretly delighted. He nodded and said, "Then you have to be following me all the time. Only then will I be able to suppress Chen Xing for you, until we find a way to completely deal with her." Faden paused and said, "I hope that her life is not harmed. She possessed my body because she did not have a choice, and she did not use my body recklessly. In these 5 years, although she blocked my voice because she felt I was too annoying, I looked through all her memories, and she really is a pitiful person. Usually, when someone's body was taken away, the owner of the body would most likely want the one who took that body to turn into ash. However, as a main character, Faden's personality was obviously unique. He still thought of Chen Xing even in this situation, which surprised everyone else. Since we have come to an agreement, we will need you to deal with the current situation. As long as you help to speak, our wanted status will be cancelled." "No problem." Faden smiled gently. Faden calmly dealt with the media with the script that he had already prepared. Back when he was trapped, he had been watching Chen Xing's every move, so he had no problem with doing the same. The police and reporters had their doubts on the excuses Faden had thought of, but since he had explained it himself, there was nothing more that they could do. I'm going to stop my performing career temporarily and leave here with these mercenaries. Sorry, you guys might have to look for another job. Faden waved his hand and patted the manager's head. The manager, who had been like a furious lion just a second ago, instantly quieted down and started crying. On the side, his other female assistants all cried as well. They looked at Han Zio with eyes filled with hostility like he was their romantic rival who had snatched their love away. But when they looked at Faden, their expression became sorrowful again, and they ran toward Faden for hugs. This scene looked like a group of people who had just lost their lover, yet none of them blamed their ex-boyfriend and forgave him instead. It was very peaceful. Han Zio's mouth twitched. If handsome people could stand on a few boats at the same time, Faden had the potential to stand on hundreds of boats at the same time. Being extremely attractive really allows people to do anything they want. You have triggered the hidden mission. Mission introduction. You discovered that Chen Xing is actually a mind possession life form. You met with the original owner of the body, Faden. He decided to completely deal with Chen Xing, who is in his mind, and your choice is extremely crucial. Mission completion requirement I. Evict or kill Faden's consciousness and let Chen Xing control the body. Mission completion requirement 2. Evict or kill Chen Xing's consciousness and let Faden control the body. Mission completion requirement 3. Help Chen Xing and Faden come to an agreement and have them take turns to control the body. Mission completion requirement IV unknown. Remarks. As long as one requirement is met, the mission can be considered as complete. Different results give different rewards. I can help Chen Xing. Han Zio was surprised. As he knew about Faden's future, he did not think about this possibility. This meant that the fate of a main character, Faden, was in his hands. If he helped Chen Xing, he would not have a future. Interesting. In the hall, Faden was sitting in the middle of everyone. The youngest Volga brother pressed onto the back of Faden's brain, and rings of formless psychic waves spread out from his forehead. After a while, he took his hands away. I found Chen Xing. She's very weak and could not resist my invasion. I have set 4 layers of walls and trapped her inside, at the same time hypnotizing her consciousness and slowing her thinking speed, which equals to reducing her recovery speed. In the next 15 days, she won't be able to do anything. Faden nodded. She's scolding me, so it seems to have been quite effective. He turned and smiled at the youngest Volga brother, releasing his attractiveness without holding back. Thank you for your help. You're welcome. The youngest Volga brother's face blushed for some reason. Exterior forces are not stable no matter what. Only you becoming stronger is the right path. I know. Faden shrugged. He looked at an object on the table. A slight wave of psychic power reached out, and that object slowly levitated and floated in the air. Actually, I awakened psychic powers on the way here. Sylvia fell onto the ground. She hurriedly climbed up, and her face was covered in shock. So quick. Faden smiled and said, there are full sets of psychic training methods in Chen Xing's memories, and I could feel it when she trained her psychic powers. It's easy to do the same. Apparently, I am rather talented. Sylvia had no tears left to cry. For me to become a super, not only did I have to memorize tons of books every day, but I still had to be electrified. Why are you so lucky? The past few days, I've felt a restriction on becoming stronger. It seems to be the grade B limit you spoke of. I have a feeling that as long as I surpass it, my power will be much stronger. However, this limit is not as strong as you said. I should be able to break it any time. Also, I have been dreaming. I saw many blurry images in my dream that felt familiar, but I can't recall the most of it after waking up. Do you think these are the memories I've lost? Han Zio was surprised, and his eyes narrowed. This news was a little too sudden. Even the great mechanic Han could not react to it instantly. He thought about it and realized that Arashia had been at grade C+ for quite some time. With her growth speed, it was indeed about time for her to enter grade B. In Arashia's a ranked chain mission, the requirement of the first round was to reach Arashia, and help her reach grade B. The rewards were very rich. 5,200,000 experience and 1 chance of a random reward. Han Zio just happened to be in need of random reward chances, so this was an unexpected, pleasant surprise. Arashia closed her eyes. Her body slowly levitated up, and beams of bright light shot out from her body, causing an energy tide in a range of a few hundred meters. It's quite a huge scene. Hurlis raised his hand to block the beams of light. She's very special. She was around grade C as soon as she awakened, and there's an enormous amount of energy hidden in her body. Breaking through grade B is a piece of cake for her. Han Zio nodded. Hurlis' face twitched. Am I the only one who feels that breaking through grades is not easy? The oldest Volga patted his shoulders and said meaningfully, be satisfied with what you have. Like the expanding sea, the light energy quickly filled up the space within a few hundred meters. That area became a sea of light. First round of completed. You have received 5,200,000 experience, plus 5 wrist of favorability. You have received random reward X1. This Rista definitely has an unusual relationship with Arashia, but who is he? Holding back his joy, Hanzio temporarily left the random reward in the interface, walked to Arashia, and asked, how are you feeling? Arashia checked herself and said, I can control more energy now. Other than that, I saw more familiar images, way too many. My head is hurting a little. Arashia frowned. Hanzio looked down, reached out his hands, and rubbed her temples, easing her pain. What else are you feeling? I don't know. Some places that flashed past in my memories seem to be summoning me. I have a feeling that if I go to these places, I should be able to recall some things. Arashia moved her fingers in the air and drew out the images of different locations in her memories with light energy. Hanzio raised his brows. Initially, Arashia was not curious about the memories that she had lost at all, but after she entered grade B, she seemed to have awakened a more human side of her. She had new desires, and her emotions were richer. Could it be that as Arashia became stronger, her secrets would be gradually exposed? At this time, a new notification popped up on the interface. Second round. According to Arashia's descriptions, head to the various locations in her memories and help her look for the pieces of her memories. Current progress 0 divided by. Reward 10,300,000 experience, plus 10 wrist of favorability. Failure condition, Arashi is deaf. The second round is to help her find parts of her memories. Hanzio's eyes sparkled. Being this special, Arashia's origin was definitely extraordinary. If she found her memories, he was not certain whether it would be a good or bad thing. He felt that Arashia was good the way that she was. If she recovered her memories, her personality would definitely change. This current state between them would most likely not be able to carry on. Hanzio was a little hesitant. Maybe keeping things as they were and not doing this mission was the best choice. No matter what, Arashia was a very decent friend, and she was now the second grade B officer in the mercenary group. If she continued to grow, she would be of more use. With 3 grade B supers, including Hanzio himself, the rating of the mercenary group in the alliance would increase, and he would have another strong comrade. However, this should be Arashia's personal storyline. Even if he did not do it, she might remember more memories as time went on. By then, she might choose to leave nonetheless. When thinking this way, Hanzio thought that he might as well do the mission and see how things went. There was still a random reward chance in the interface. Hanzio rubbed his hands together, took a deep breath, and activated it. Randomizing. Randomizing complete. Your random reward type is. Hanzio's eyes immediately brightened. He was excited. There is a chance. He subconsciously held his breath in trepidation. Time felt like it was stretched out, and everything became slower. The 3 choices appeared one after another. Please select one from the 3 items below. Small potential potion grants 1 bonus potential point. Mechanic blueprint, 1 random mechanic blueprint. Blank character summon card. Choose a character and randomly generate that character's character summon card. Can only be used once. Hanzio's eyes widened in shock. Well, they were all complete trash. I finally got the type, and this is what you give me. Hanzio almost wanted to smash the table. He had caught a glimmer of hope, and the next second, it was extinguished. The highs and lows of life were too exciting. I want the mission completion card. After panicking for a while, Hanzio finally calmed down. He clenched his teeth and smiled. It's not a big deal. I didn't get it this time, but I will try it the next time and even the next time after that. After contemplating, he felt that only the blank character summon card was worthwhile. If he chose to generate Aim's character summon card, who knew what effect it would have? Although he had the super gene extractor, it was obviously impossible for him to use it on Ames. He did not want to die yet. Its lower limit was not too low, and its upper limit was over the top, so it was quite a good choice. At the same time, in a star field extremely distant from Shattered Star Ring, a black spaceship in stealth mode was quietly hovering in space. The exterior of this spaceship was very smooth, reflecting the scenery of the space like a black mirror. It was a stealth-level scout ship, usually known as the Black Light Prowler. As a product of the Federation of Light, it was extremely expensive, top-notch in stealth, detection, speed, and many specifications. Its technology far exceeded most civilizations. 1 nanosecond earlier, a special wave had traveled through countless light years in the quantum realm and arrived there in an instant. In the cockpit of the spaceship, a finger-sized, oval-shaped accessory was hanging at the top of the cockpit. This transparent accessory received this special wave and emitted a golden glow. A sound appeared in the empty cockpit. Countless streams of light appeared out of nowhere and gathered into a human-shaped cluster of light. It reached out its hand and touched the accessory that was flickering with weak light. Your energy level finally recovered to the level that's locatable by the detector. So, you were thrown to the Shattered Star Ring by the wormhole. I will look for you very soon. Wait for me. In the blink of an eye, this black light prowler turned into a stream of light and disappeared. It only needed microseconds to warm up before jumping. It was so swift that it was almost impossible to catch. The spaceship was sent into the shipyard for repairs and refueling. Hanzio did not tell his friends about the goal of this trip, so the others thought this was just the usual refueling and resting process. The station chief had told them about the rules and regulation in a very serious tone before leaving the hall. One of our research spaceships lost contact in a nearby planet. The search team that we sent ended up the same. We saw signs of a spaceship crashing and exploding, so the station chief reported the situation to the superiors. The Directorate General of Intelligence and Investigation planned this mission into their schedule, assuming no one survived. But there's a possibility that those people are still alive waiting for us to send people over. We might have already missed the rescue timing. Naraja's wife is in the research team. He has been very anxious recently. Hanzio came to the porthole corridor, and from far away, he could already see a Godarin observer staring out the window in a daze with a worried expression. Hanzio quickly walked up to him and asked, "Are you Naraja? You're the mercenaries parked here." Naraja turned his head to Hanzio. He was a little on edge. "Yes, I heard 2 of your research ships lost contact on a planet. My intuition tells me that there is a job here that needs help. I heard your wife is in the team. I'm sure you're worried. Maybe she's still alive. For just a small reward, I can help you to find the targets," Hanzio said. "Mercenaries, I want to request you to find my wife. This is an act against the regulations, so please don't tell the others." A notification popped up on Hanzio's interface immediately. "You have triggered mission. Mission introduction. You accepted Naraja's request and are planning to head to a desolate planet to look for the research team that has lost contact. Mission requirements. Head toward the target planet and investigate the reasons for them losing contact. Search for the missing research team. Remarks. Your investigation results affect the final rating of the mission. Basic reward, 1,358 Inas, 85,000 experience, Kenorn Diamond Ring." Although the gravity of this planet was quite high, it had minimal impact on Grade B supers. After a while, a spaceship wreckage appeared before them. This was a Godara research ship. There was a huge hole on the side of its body, but the hatch was still closed. Hanzio peeked into the cabin. It was completely dark. Apparently, the system was basically incapacitated. "Let's go in and see if there are any survivors or corpses," Hanzio said. Although he remembered how the mission would go, since he came at a different time, he did not know if there would be any slight changes. He explored inside the cabin, and no one was in it. Hanzio switched to the tracing interface and discovered some panicking footsteps. After extracting the newest markings, he realized that these people did not leave the spaceship. There were also markings of someone being dragged along the floor in some rooms. It's obvious that the shield did not fully protect them, and some people fainted. However, none of their footsteps left the spaceship. It seems like everyone disappeared into thin air. The hatch is closed, which means that that hole was made by something else. It looks like there are some special life forms on this planet, and these things are the reason for the ship crew's disappearance. I roughly know where that creature is. Following the path in his memories, Hanzio advanced quickly without stopping. Usually, only by collecting more clues nearby would they be able to discover the nest of the boss. However, the mission rating would not be high this way. In his previous life, there were more spaceship wreckages at that period in time, meaning that there were more clues. Very soon, they found a hidden nest at the bottom of a crater. There were signs of burrowing, and the entrance was about 4 to 5 meters wide, rather spacious. The path was slanted downward. The 3 of them slid along the tunnel and finally stepped on solid ground. Around them was the dark underground. The temperature there was much higher than that of the surface. There was only one way forward. It was a dead end behind them. "This temperature is quite comfortable. We're almost there. Get ready for battle," Hanzio said. The 3 of them arrived at the end of the tunnel. "Who are you?" A naked Godarin appeared in the hot spring, looking at them with surprise. Water rolled down her curvy body. Hurles first looked down, then up, then repeated the process a few times before he realized. You're Lenny, you know me. The female Godarin was surprised. She was indeed Naraja's wife. We're mercenaries. We accepted your husband's request and came to save you. Where are the others? Hurles asked. That's amazing. Finally, someone came to save us. The others are. Joy appeared on Lenny's face, but suddenly her expression changed, and she anxiously said, Don't stand there. It's coming out. Just as she finished her sentence, a small whirlpool formed in the middle of the hot spring lake. Something large was rising to the surface. A tsunami-like wave expanded from the middle and splashed onto Hanzio and the others. A strange creature jumped out of the lake and levitated midair before turning toward the three people on the shore. What is this? Hurles' eyes opened wide. An interstellar beast, a space creature born between stars, Hanzio quickly explained. It can fly in space with its body and increase its speed through the gravitational force of planets to reach the speed of spaceships. Although it cannot jump like a spaceship and usually has to fly alone for thousands of years, its lifespan is almost infinite. They can keep molting and renew their cells. They're very rare. Mages can summon interstellar beasts through an ancient ceremony. The spell is unidirectional and ignores physical distance. However, they summon interstellar beasts mostly to hunt and kill them. After all, an interstellar beast's body is a very rare material. Hurles acted first. He slashed his battleship's slicing blade, sending out a beam of blade-shaped light, directly hitting the interstellar beast's body. However, it shattered in an explosion, and the interstellar beast was unhurt. It did not even move an inch. Don't hope to hurt an interstellar creature that can travel through the universe with its body this easily. Hanzio pulled out an electromagnetic firearm and fired. The bullet bounced off the interstellar beast's body, and a damage number 1 appeared. The interstellar beast's attributes appeared on the interface. Level, class, attributes, STR, Dex, 500 End, INT, Mise, 153 Chaw, Luck. Energy, 0. Energy rank, Health, 249,986. Status, Normal. Talents, Unknown. Abilities, Unknown. Hanzio nodded in his mind. He had known the interstellar beast's attributes since the start. As a space creature, its health was outrageous. Without a doubt, it was a true boss. The weak spot of the interstellar beast was its tentacle crystal. It almost had no resistance, so basically, every hit on it would deal true damage. Every time the damage accumulated to 50,000, the interstellar beast's entire body's resistance would decrease by 20%, which would allow attacks on its body to deal some damage. The interstellar beast's attacks were controlling objects with its mind, similar to psychic. It was good at disabling enemies and could redirect the ballistics aimed at its vital spot. The good thing was that its damage was not very high. The only way to defeat it was to take it slow. However, to Hanzio, as long as the enemy's damage was limited, it would not be a threat. The invisible psychic power surrounding Hanzio's body did not express any intention to attack. It seemed like the interstellar beast just wanted to pull Hanzio to him and observe him out of curiosity. The attack earlier was no different from a scratch to the interstellar beast. As Hanzio levitated in midair, 2 rows of thrust pipes emerged on the back of his mechanical suit. A strong airstream gushed out, and the force allowed him to escape from the psychic power. His electromagnetic scythe expanded in the blink of an eye as he slashed the interstellar beast's tentacle. The blade of the scythe struck the crystal violently, and blinding electric sparks exploded. The interstellar beast's tentacle quickly retracted, and its body tensed as its vital spot was hit. This slash dealt close to 1,000 points of damage. Compared to its tough body, its tentacle had close to no resistance. Suddenly, the light on the interstellar beast's tentacle became dozens of times brighter, like a flashbang exploding out of nowhere. The almost blinding light filled the entire underground cave. Hanzio and Hurles' vision was covered in white. Look, it's angry. Hanzio stretched his neck and chuckled. A pipe flickering with blue light appeared on his wrist armor plate, which then shot out compressed orbs one after another that quickly turned into artilleries. Boom, boom, boom. A violent, wild storm of metal erupted in the cave. Countless bullets hit the interstellar beast's body. Its tentacle emitted psychic energy that formed a shield, changing the direction of the bullets continuously. In comparison, Arashia made a bigger impact. She flew to the interstellar beast's head with ease and gently held onto its tentacle. The next moment, highly concentrated energy exploded in her palms. Boom. The explosions were continuous, the interstellar beast twitching in pain all the while. With its vital spot being used like a boxer used a sandbag, the agony would be indescribable. After Arashia entered Grade B, the strength of her Esper power skyrocketed. She took on the role as the main damage dealer and made a tremendous impact. The three of them surrounded the interstellar beast. Psychic energy was exploding, bullets were raining down, and slashes were landing continuously. It was intense and heated. The interstellar beast's health went down slowly but surely. Even though it protected its vital spot as much as it could, there were times when Hanzio and the others' attacks penetrated its defenses. Not long after, the interstellar beast's health dropped by 50,000. Its resistance decreased by a large portion, and the damage dealt by the three of them increased. Although space creatures had very thick skin, the interstellar beasts were not adept at battle. It could only be ranked as grade B, and even that was because of his outrageously high health that ranked among the top even in the countless bosses. If the players did not have sufficient damage, they would be defeated due to exhaustion. After all, their energy and stamina were limited. The battle lasted a long time. When the interstellar beast only had 5% of its health left, it could not continue levitating and fell into the hot spring. Hanzio made sure that the thing did not have any more energy to battle before exhaling deeply and swinging his arms to loosen his sore muscles. Although he was protected by the mechanical suit, it was still painful being smashed and thrown around by the interstellar beast. Hurles took off his helmet, his hair damp from his sweat. He held his knees and panted. This guy is way too resistant. I'm exhausted. Barashia's body was much dimmer. She had spent more than 80% of her energy. This monster took off our clothes. It probably thinks they're our weapon. We were usually suppressed under the lake by this monster. Maybe he took us as trophies, Lenny said. Take your clothes, let's talk when you have them on. Hanzio glanced at her indifferently. Compared to women, Hanzio was more interested in robots. He was a real man. He turned around and saw that Hurles could not take his eyes off Lenny. He patted him and said with a displeased tone, "Don't stare at her, that's the employer's wife. I don't want to be refused the reward in the end." Hurles scratched his head. Before he could speak in his defense, Lenny laughed alluringly. She was in a very good mood after being rescued. She blinked and said with a smile, "It's okay, us Godarans are very open-minded. You guys saved my life, so maybe." "Stop, I'm not interested in golden skins." Hanzio shivered in his mind. Lenny shrugged, and they went below the water, quickly picked up a large pile of Observer standard equipment, and put them on. Interstellar beasts were extremely rare and filled with treasures. The important parts of interstellar beasts could be made into gene potions that could increase one's attributes. There was even a chance of getting a talent from the potion. Plus, it would increase the choices during race evolution. Furthermore, killing it would trigger a legendary milestone. Most importantly, the powder created by crushing an interstellar beast's crystal could be made into a special potion. It had no effect on the players but was extremely rare. It could even be used as a currency to purchase any resources from NPCs. Such potions only had one effect, to grant part of the interstellar beast's metabolism adjusting ability. Simply put, this thing could extend one's lifespan. Hurles finally brought the other observers over. The Godarans were all surprised. Moments ago, they had still been trapped in the hot spring and singing, but the next moment, they had suddenly been rescued by mercenaries. After waiting a few days, the short window in the radiation storm finally arrived. They hastily boarded the aircraft and went straight up into the sky. The space station immediately opened up its port. Unlike the cold treatment last time, the attitude of the space station's people completely changed, and they welcomed them enthusiastically. The spaceship docked at the port. As soon as the cabin opened, Hanzio saw that almost everyone in the space station had gathered at the port. The station chief stood at the front. Surprise and contentment were on this serious army officer's face. "Darling," Nerija squeezed himself out of the crowd and opened his arms with excitement on his face. A smile appeared on Lenny's face as she saw her husband. She dashed into his arms, then kissed his forehead, and they started kissing passionately. She hung on Nerija's neck like a koala. Their position was so fiery that it looked like they were going to do it on the spot. Hanzio's eyes hurt from watching it, and the image of back then when he captured Kurlod and stripped him naked appeared in his mind. Muscular, wide shoulders, small member. No wonder there were so many hybrids in Godara. Hanzio smiled and said, "When I was here, I heard about the research ships. I'm a mercenary, so I won't give up any opportunity to make a fortune. Mr. Station Chief, my services are not free. Maybe you should pay a reasonable price for my labor." The station chief was puzzled and a little troubled. "According to our regulations, we can't pay you any money. This was your own action. We did not hire you." Hanzio raised his eyebrows. "Are you saying that I worked for free? Is this how Godarans treat their friends?" The faces of the crowd around them changed in dissatisfaction, especially the surviving observers including Lenny. Their eyes turned rather cold. "These mercenaries saved us, yet you don't even want to give a reward. Are our lives this cheap in your eyes? Although they were unhappy, they did not say anything. The regulations were not to be disobeyed. Back at the hall, Nerija found Hanzio. The two of them walked to the side, and he grabbed Hanzio's hand with a face filled with gratitude. Thank you so much for your help, Lenny, and I don't even know how to repay you. Hanzio pulled his hands back, shrugged, and said, of course you know how to repay me. We agreed on the reward. Mission rating, excellent. You have received grade bonus reward, bonus 50% experience, random reward X1. Only excellent, Hanzio thought. The chance of getting a random reward from excellent grade is only 30%. Randomizing complete. Your random reward type is, how great. Hanzio's tone was calm, and he was expressionless. At this point, he was already very calm about it. Or at least he seemed very calm. I'm not angry, not at all. After Hanzio got the money in his account, Nerija took out a white diamond ring from his pocket, looked at it for a while with reluctance in his eyes, and then solemnly placed it into Hanzio's hand. I know I don't have much money, and these rewards are too little for you, but you still chose to help me. I'm very touched and thankful. This ring is called the Kenorn Diamond Ring. It's a magic treasure that I collected. I want you to know that not all Goterans are as petty as the station chief. Please accept my gift. Grade, purple. Type, magic equipment, ring. Equipment effect, plus 9% magic resistance, plus 7% magic affinity, plus 11 INT, plus 23 Mise, plus 5 Cha. Equipment requirement, mage, above level 80. Additional ability, passive aura, permanently increases the vitality of magic in a 15 meters diameter, plus 13% damage of all magic attacks. Remarks, this ring is engraved with a very strong enchantment, and it has an enormous amount of magic power. The creator of this ring is clearly an arcane master. The aura is perfect for dungeons. These guilds will definitely be willing to pay a huge sum for it. Sadly, this thing has limited use to me. The oldest and second oldest Volga brothers were the only mages in the mercenary group, and they had a high enough level, so it could only be given to them. Anyway, the players were not there for the time being, so there was no need to sell it. Where are we going next? Hanzio thought of the interstellar beast materials in the spaceship and said, we need to find someone to turn that carcass in the warehouse into potions first. Although finding the mission completion card was important, he was not in a hurry. The pharmaceutical company that Hanzio had chosen had a very good name and was very high class. It was a technology-side pharmaceutical organization. After paying a certain fee, he waited a few days and successfully got the potions made from the interstellar beast's materials without any issue. Hanzio's fingers slid past the potions, and two translucent light blue information panels popped up around them. It was the item introduction. A precious potion, made by extracting an interstellar beast's genes, that grants a permanent attribute increase after consuming. Effective usages, 0 divided by 3. Remark, before drinking it, be warned that the genes of a space creature are not that easy to control. Of course, if being a distorted life form aligns with your aesthetic, please drink as much as you wish. A rare potion, made from an interstellar beast's life core, that grants an extended lifespan after consuming with almost no side effects. Remark, life is never too long. No fortune or reputation even comes close to how important it is. He drank a tube of lifespan potion. It tasted spicy, entering his stomach like a burning blade stabbing down his throat. The pain only lasted for a few seconds before it turned into a gentle warmness that spread throughout his body. You have acquired ability, self-healing. When you are injured, you can spend energy to increase your health recovery speed. Aner stood silently outside the thick, silver alloy gate without saying a word. The gate slowly opened and broke the silence. Light shone from inside, lighting up Aner's strict, wrinkly face. A person walked out slowly from the room back facing the light. His front was dark, and his looks could not be seen. He stopped before Aner. He reached out his palm and said, "Welcome to Calamity." The person extended his arm and shook Aner's hand. As he looked up, his face became clearer. It was indeed Ember. It was the day that Ember regained his freedom. To him, being in solitary confinement was the same as training. After training day after day, he had finally passed the threshold that had stopped countless supers and entered Greta. All his senses felt fresh. It was like he had been reborn. He did not just become stronger. His level of life, worldview, and mindset had changed as well. Problems that once felt difficult seemed easy, and enemies that he could not let go no longer mattered. The situation is not looking good. Although we are in the dark, Godera has not given up hunting us down. As the next step of the plan is carried out, the war will be on an even larger scale. Our high-end combat powers are the main focus of Godara. Some of them left us. High-end combat powers like you and I are in shortage, so you don't have time to rest. There's a mission that needs you. With an expressionless face, Ember said indifferently, "This is my destiny. Ever since I opened my eyes, I was already prepared to contribute my power to Dark Star. Okay, follow me." Anna turned around. "This is your first mission after entering Grade I. Will work together with you in case you can't control your power. We're going to Norias to kill a traitor." After Hanzio got the 85,000 Inas, the interface notified him that the mission had been completed. All hostages were rescued, the galactic pirates were captured alive, and the spaceship was handed over. A perfect completion rate, so a random reward will certainly be given, Hanzio thought. He had already saved 4 random reward chances. In those 2 months, he had done more than 10 missions. He had gotten a random reward chance from more than 80% of those missions. At the start, he had used them up as soon as he got them. He had gotten attribute points, experience, potential points, and others. Not only did he not get what he wanted, he also got a bunch of trash. Hanzio had grown quite frustrated, so he had started saving them. A single draw was not dependable. Miracles would only occur in consecutive draws. At this time, the communicator rang again. Interrupted again, Hanzio was boiling. "Can't I do my consecutive draws peacefully? The luck that I gathered is vanishing. Who the hell? Oh, Ames, hi, are you well? What is it?" To Hanzio's surprise, the alluring and sexy Dragon Emperor appeared on the screen. "Black Star, I need you." Ames' expression was a little strange. Hanzio's mouth twitched. "Pardon me, but what kind of need are you talking about? I found my teacher's whereabouts. He came to the Shattered Star Ring." "Black Star, you saw what he looked like personally. Accompany me to look for him." Ames' tone was assertive. "When?" "As soon as possible. I will immediately notify you when I return to the Shattered Star Ring." "Are you not on Floating Dragon Island now?" "I went to the Federation of Light's mother planet for sightseeing," Ames said. The great mechanic Han was speechless. "All right," Hanzio said, "where's your teacher now?" "Someone said that he appeared on Norias some time ago. Go there to take a look first before I return." Randomizing. Randomization complete. Your random reward type is Mission Completion card. Marks 1 mission as complete and receive rewards equivalent to the lowest grade. Hanzio exhaled deeply and closed his eyes with satisfaction and fulfillment. "Finally, I finally got it." Bang. The next second, he jumped up and slammed his palm on the metal table, leaving an imprint. Consecutive draw is the best in the world. You have taken another step forward on the path of evolution. You have received refinement of your level of life. Race detected. Type I Galaxy Human Race. Randomly selecting 6 suitable evolution paths. Selection complete. Please select one from the 6 options below as your evolved race. Warning: the evolution process is irreversible. Please select cautiously. Other than the usual Type 2 and Type 3, the rest are all decent, but none of them are comparable to this. Hanzio narrowed his eyes. He had already decided. Selection complete. Evolving race. Evolution complete. Your race changed to cell structure refined, organs strengthened, metabolism adjusted, adaptability enhanced. Your potential increased. You have received attribute bonuses. Your race specialty has been changed. You have received race specialty. You have received race specialty. You have received race specialty. Skidding pain came like a tsunami. Hanzio had mentally prepared. Every race evolution brought a huge change for one's genes and cells. The players could ignore the pain, but he could not. Void Prowler could almost be considered as a completely different life form, so the change was drastic. This was indeed the special evolution path given by the Void genes. Whether in terms of race specialty or future potential, this was the best choice among the 6 options. The Void race was like the Demon race and the Energy life. It was a race on its own, rare, strong, and had a lot of potential. You have received a new class, plus 120 energy, plus 3 dex, plus 3 end, plus 5 int. You have received 6 free attribute points. You have received 1 potential point. War Mechanic was the 6th stage class of the Mechanic class. It was the time where the Mechanic class showcased its power. The maximum level of this class was 20. As the name suggested, the Mechanic class finally started focusing on combat abilities at this stage. Other than the new machinery affinity, all the other abilities were combat abilities. He spent his experience in the main class and leveled it up. Hanzio took out a mirror and looked at himself. He had grown 10 inches taller. Luckily, his body was still in human shape, and he did not have an extra tail or arm or anything of the sort. However, inside his body, His bones, muscles, and organ structures had completely changed. It was many times more complicated than a human structure. He did not look much different from before, still handsome as always. The diamond-shaped skin between his eyebrows became an indigo crystal. This was a controllable new organ used to sense the void vision. Let me try to see how it feels. The world before his eyes changed. Everything became foggy, like he was observing reality through a layer of translucent material. This was the void vision. He entered a mirror dimension that reflected reality where time passed at a different speed. When Hanzio moved, the real world was basically still. But he could not influence reality in any way, and would only go through physical objects. The two dimensions were like mirrors that were placed tightly against each other. They could not interfere with each other. It was like a stealth mode that allowed free movement, had no duration limit, but continuously cost a large amount of stamina during its duration. Its cooldown was 5 minutes. Destination detected. Arriving at Norios. Surface temperature suitable. In the spaceship hall. A round, chubby robot was speaking in a very mechanical voice. Suddenly, a big hand grabbed this robot's head and lifted it up. The robot seemed to be panicking, its two mechanical arms swinging randomly in the air. With its round robotic body, it looked strangely adorable. Put it down. How many times have I said, Herlis, don't play with my robot? Herlis shrugged and put the robot down. As soon as this little guy returned to the ground, it quickly rolled to beside the sofa and tried to hide behind Hanzio's legs while shivering. Hanzio petted the robot's metal head gently. Herlis scratched his head and said, "Can this artificial intelligence you built really fight? Can't you remember its name?" "It's called Philip," Hanzio said. "It's still semi-finished." During the time the spaceship traveled, Hanzio occupied himself. He had combined quite a few stronger blueprints, updated his combat machinery, and used the new that he had obtained to build Philip, an artificial intelligence. Compared to the smart chips, the calculation speed, logical structure, and data capacity of an artificial intelligence was many times higher. The reason for it being semi-finished was that some logical orders were not set up yet. Its virtual personality still had flaws and needed to be improved. Nonetheless, running it was not a problem. Philip could download data through the network, but it would not affect its fixed virtual personality. Hanzio later built a robot body for it. Regarding why its name was Philip, this was the name of his pet turtle in his previous life. To lazy people that wanted a pet but did not like cleaning, turtles were the perfect choice. It would probably not die even if its owner died. Hanzio registered for spaceship storage and brought the others to the lift area. Arashia looked up and said, "This place feels familiar. I might have come here before." This time, a notice popped up on the interface. Hanzio looked at it, and to his surprise, the progress of S second round had increased by 1. Looks like Norios is one of the locations in Arashia's memory pieces. She came here in one of her lives, and we coincidentally came as well. As Norios is a very important traffic junction, many intel organizations have set up divisions here recording information of all travelers. I know what the target looks like, so as long as I ask at an intel organization, there will definitely be some clues. I'm here to purchase intel. Hanzio expressed his intentions to the reception. After a while, a human dealer in black formal clothes walked out of the corridor and said with a deep voice, "Follow me." Hanzio and the others followed the human dealer into the corridor, took a turn at an intersection, and headed to the room. "What intel would you like to purchase? Our organization has a very strong intel network. Be it current matters or secret information, we have it all," the dealer bragged. "I want to look for someone. Give me a pen and paper. I will draw what he looks like." The higher one's intelligence attribute was, the clearer their memory would be. Hanzio quickly drew out a portrait of a human on the paper. "We have fitting intel. This is an ordinary man. We records all the travelers who enter Norios. We have been running a person searching promotion recently, so this piece of intel only costs 100 enas. The dealer transferred the information as soon as Hanzio paid the fee, and the others looked at it together. This person came to Norios 38 days ago in a cross-star field voyage that took off at Starfield. He did not do anything irregular on Norios, and it looked like he's just traveling. Last seen 16 days ago, south of City 8. The detailed address was written in the intel. This was where the target had last appeared. 16 days ago. Is he still in Norios? Hanzio asked. The dealer nodded. We have people in the port, and there are records for every registered ID. He did not leave Norios, so he should still be in that place. That might not be the case, Hanzio said. Intel organizations were not almighty. If someone changed their appearance and used a pre-prepared fake ID, it would be very easy to fool them. Han Zio could easily do it himself. Furthermore, the Dragon Emperor's teacher was an oracle. Upon getting the clues that they wanted, he and the others left the Intel organization. They headed straight to the train station and took the high-speed maglev train to City 8. The train had many cabins, and the cabin that they were sitting in was for groups. Their seats were around a table. The scenery outside the window dashed by. Hurles was playing cards with the three brothers again, and Faden was observing how normal people played cards from the side. Arashia was eating snacks, and Sylvia was playing with Philip. This time, a voice from a strange man appeared beside them. "Can I sit here?" Han Zio opened his eyes. A golden-skinned man was standing beside him. He was carrying a backpack and smiling. It was a Godarin. However, his skin color was very light, meaning that he was not a pureblood Godarin. "It's too lonely to travel alone, and I love to make friends. There's a saying in my home that goes making friends with strangers is a man's way. Hey, don't push me. We haven't agreed to let you sit down." Hurles was displeased. You're playing Wayne card." Alvin saw the cards on the table, and his eyes sparkled. He took out a deck of cards, slammed it on the table, and said, "Well, I happen to be a master in Wayne card." At the same time, Hurles discreetly turned to look at Han Zio. Han Zio gave him a hand sign, signaling that it was okay. He had checked Alvin just now. This Godarin was very weak, and his energy sign barely reached grade C's standard. He could crush him in a second, so it was not much of a threat. He wanted to see what this Godarin was trying to do and what his motives were, so he allowed him to stay and observed him closely. 2 hours later, the train arrived at the station. Alvin took a deep breath of the fresh air, turned around, and slightly bowed toward Han Zio and the others. It was a short trip, but the time spent was amazing. It will be engraved in my mind as a beautiful memory. I sincerely thank you guys for your company. We are friends now. I hope that we will have the chance to meet again in the future. Then, he waved, turned around, and left with his bag. "Strange guy," Sylvia murmured. "Such an amiable guy," said Faden with a smile. "He's probably just an honest passerby. We might have been overthinking," Hurles said. Han Zio glanced at him and did not comment. Although he still did not know Alvin's motive, he rarely believed that anything was coincidental. Even if this guy called Alvin did not do anything abnormal during the trip, he still did not let his guard down. As Han Zio did not know Alvin's motive, he put the matter to the back of his mind, followed the clues from the intel, and found the last place that the target appeared. After pressing the doorbell, they waited at the gate. They were used to climbing over walls, so now that they had to walk the front gate, they felt uncomfortable. After a while, Han Zio pressed the doorbell a few more times, but still, no one responded. There might be no one in, or the person inside doesn't want to open the gate. "What do you say, break in?" Hurles shrugged. "Since no one responded, we shall go in and take a look before." Boom. Han Zio's sentence had yet to finish when a loud bang suddenly came from above. A thick smoke dissipated in the wind, showing the true face of those creatures, a group of stone creatures. They gave off a mercenary vibe as they were on the verge of attacking. Han Zio and gang were just looking for someone. They did not expect to be attacked, so they were surprised. "Why did you attack us?" Sylvia asked. "Someone paid us to teach you a lesson," a stone man said. Philip was an artificial intelligence, so it lived in computer systems. Machinery was just what he controlled. When the shell was destroyed, it would not be damaged with it. Its core was behind layers of protection. With the computing speed of an artificial intelligence, it could simultaneously control dozens more mechanical beasts than before. Furthermore, with the combat simulations in the database, it could improvise on the spot and battle independently with a high standard. Pebbles spurted everywhere. "Don't hit too hard. We can't randomly kill people on Norios." Han Zio leaned against the wall and watched the one-sided battle. "No, my smooth skin." The head of the stone warriors looked at his cracked body and wailed. In terms of stone man aesthetics, the quality of the stone on their body's surface was the same as their attractiveness. Han Zio was a little surprised by how weak those stone warriors were. It was impossible for their employer not to know how strong Han Zio and the others were. What impact would it make for him to send these weaklings? Was it just a warning or welcome gift? Could he have guessed incorrectly and the stone warrior's employer was not their target? Matters involving oracles were always a headache. Han Zio did not want to dwell on it. He grabbed the stone warrior and questioned him directly. "Who is your employer?" Accordingly, mercenaries would not sell the identity of their employer. Han Zio was already prepared to interrogate them, but to his surprise, these stone warriors gave him an expected reply. "The employer wanted us to come here today to deal with the person that pressed the doorbell of that villa and said that our lives wouldn't be in danger. If we got defeated, we should tell you a location to find a person there, and there will be someone there that knows his whereabouts. the stone warrior said nervously. He also said that you will forcefully ask for the employer's identity and told me to relay his exact words. You guessed right, it is me indeed. Don't think I don't know you used my name fraudulently. Play a game with me if you want to find me. Everyone's expression changed slightly. Damn Oracle. Han Zio clenched his teeth. Hurless slapped Han Zio's back heavily and laughed loudly. You met a colleague. Colleagues hate each other. Han Zio snorted and asked for the location. The stone warrior said the next location while shivering. North of City 8. At the same time, in a secret location in Norias City 4, many Dark Star members were gathered in a dark room. They often like to host secret operations in dark places like that. According to our intel, the traitor appeared simultaneously at the center of City 7, northeast of City 6, and City 4 Seconds train station. His ability is to have 5 doppelgangers. One of them is in our hands, the whereabouts of the other 3 have been exposed, and the last one has yet to be found. That should be his original body that he hid. His doppelgangers can't be too far away from his original body, or they would vanish. The exact distance is unknown, but it won't be further than a planet. Hence, he's still on Norias, a Dark Star warrior said. In the corner of the room, a Godarin was tied tightly to a chair. This Godarin was covered in blood, and it was unknown how much suffering he had gone through. He looked exactly like Alvin, and he was sneering. What are you laughing at? A Dark Star soldier yelled. Haha, you will never catch my real body. Alvin was indeed the traitor that Dark Star was tracking down. Captain Forsyth, a soldier suddenly said, the latest intel shows that the doppelganger in City 4 is taking the train to City 8. Lieutenant Sherman did not follow the plan and attack. Okay, Forsyth replied indifferently. He was a hybrid Godarin, a grade B super of Dark Star. He was also the captain of this team. To pursue this traitor, not only did Dark Star dispatch a large number of elite soldiers consisting of 7 grade B supers, they even dispatched Anner and Ember who were 2 calamity grades. This was a huge operation. Your Excellencies, Forsyth bowed respectfully and said, we have new information. A doppelganger of the traitor took the train towards City 8. Sherman did not follow the plan of attack. Why? Anner asked with a deep voice. He accidentally met the Black Star mercenary group on the train. Forsyth said. Alvin sat down with them, and Sherman didn't have the confidence to attack. Black Star. Anner frowned and looked at Ember on the side. He still remembered how obsessed Ember had been with Black Star. Anner said with a deep voice, the task is more important. We're hidden in the dark, so there's no need to provoke him. Sherman's decision is very correct, Anner said. Behind the Black Star is the Dragon Emperor, so there's no need to cause more problems. Alvin was lucky to have accidentally met this gang of mercenaries, but his luck will not keep going. Have Sherman continue to track him. Looking at the time, Godera's reinforcements should be arriving very soon. Alvin's doppelgangers share their senses, so all his doppelgangers know that you're tracking him. Tell those acting outside to be cautious, don't fall into his trap. Universal Love Bookstore. What kind of name is this? Go in and see. According to the clue, there was a person there who knew the whereabouts of the target. I am the owner of this bookstore. Do you like single or multiple people? Beautiful or rough? What race do you like? Oh, you are all humanoid species. I have humanoid creatures of all skins tones here. They were confused, and Sylvia asked, what are you talking about? The mage store owner blinked, then gave a look of understanding and said, I see, we have hybrids too. Be it insects, beasts, machinery, or anything you can think of, I have it here. I'm sure it will suit your taste. At this time, Arashia opened a book on the shelf, and the others looked over. Sylvia's face suddenly turned red, and she hurriedly turned away, but she could not help but to peek at the book. Hurless was bewildered. His worldview was impacted. Arashia was amused. So, this is the material life reproduction process. Unknown information discovered, Ongoing data acquisition, Philip's mechanical eye was wildly flickering, capturing every frame of the picture. The Volga three brothers took out a huge pile of books from the bookshelf extremely quickly, placed them on the counter, and asked, how much? Stop it. Hanzio closed the book in Arashia's hands and threw it aside. He stared at the mage owner and said with a deep voice, I'm looking for a guy with foresight ability. He should have left you a message. Let me introduce myself. You can call me Ixuan, I'm a teleportation mage. This bookstore is just a side job. My main business is operating a portal service. So, was the target that I want to find sent to another place in Norias by you? Ixuan shrugged and said, he paid the fees, so I teleported him. It was a normal transaction. Where did he go? I will not give away clients' privacy. Ixuan chuckled. By the way, he also left me a message to convey to anyone that wants to find him. What did he say? Hanzio frowned. He said, he wants to play a game with you. As long as you steal the Heart of Crystal Fire, he will meet you. Heart of Crystal Fire. Hanzio kicked Philip lightly and said, search it. Philip's mechanical eye suddenly emitted light in the air to form a translucent projection screen. On it was information about the Heart of Crystal Fire. Heart of Crystal Fire, a ring made by a rare crystal born in lava, a very exquisite luxury. Legend says that it is immune to high temperature and burning. It was once sold for a high price of 7,930,000 inas to the leader of the Norias financial group, Rockfess, for his wife. When Rockfess and his wife appeared in public, his wife is always wearing this ring. 7,930,000. Hurlus spat blood, spending so much money to buy a lousy ring just to please a woman. This could buy numerous battleships. His worldview was once again shaken. Squinting, Hanzio said with a low voice, I have no interest in completing this ridiculous request anyway. Where did you send him? Haven't I already told you? Yixuan said impatiently. I will not disclose the privacy of customers. Also, don't think about bribing me, I have my professional ethics. Then don't blame me for beating you up. With a ferocious expression, Hurlus raised his huge fists and stepped forward. He planned to scare this teleportation mage. His hand was just about to touch Yixuan's collar when a change happened. A light door suddenly appeared right in the gap between the two of them. Hurlus was shocked. His reaction was very fast, so he stopped his forward momentum immediately and was about to retreat. To his surprise, a red tentacle suddenly extended out quickly of the light door and wrapped around his body. A huge force blasted from the tentacle and pulled Hurlus into the light door as Hurlus disappeared. Then, a whirlpool-like sound appeared in the air. The light door rotated around the center point, narrowed, and quickly disappeared without a trace. Hurlus, the oldest Volga, exclaimed in shock. What that person said was exactly right. When the people that are here find that they can't get the information they need, they will threaten me. You didn't expect this, did you? I'm prepared. Hanzio was very calm, but he held his forehead in frustration. Teleportation magic, such an irritating ability. Hanzio discreetly sighed. Hurlus was unluckily caught, so getting him back was a pressing matter. The atmosphere was intense. This time, Yixuan pointed to the door, and with a tone of having everything under his control, he said, I'm trained in teleportation magic and always maintain it at a state that can be triggered anytime. Before you can touch me, I will be able to teleport away, so don't even think about threatening me. Your friend wanted to attack me, so I will let him suffer for a bit. In 2 hours, I will send him back and throw him at the northern entrance of City 8 where you can find him. Now, I have no interest in fighting with you. If you're not going to buy a book, please get out of my bookstore. You are not welcomed here. Before his sentence finished, Hanzio activated his mechanical suit and rushed out without saying a word like a bolt of lightning. You really don't understand what I said, do you? You're still not giving up and want to attack me. I've already read your plans. You are so violent. Yixuan did not panic at all. He sneered and activated the standby teleportation magic. A light door suddenly appeared behind him, and he stepped into it in an instant. At this time, the mechanical suit warrior that wanted to attack him was still a distance away from him. With his casting speed, he would be able to close the portal before the opponent got close. Just then, a big hand suddenly appeared in front of his eyes like it appeared out of nowhere, and before Yixuan had time to respond, the hand passed through the portal and strongly grabbed onto his face. With a palm covering his eyes, Yixuan could not see anything. At that moment, he finally panicked. What happened? The next moment, a huge surging force came from the hand. Hanzio, who was in his void form, pulled Yixuan out of the portal. Because Yixuan's body had to cross the light door again, he had no choice but to quickly stop his already prepared spell to close the portal, or the person that would be cut into half would be him. The situation had instantly reversed. He swung hard, throwing Yixuan out like a cannon, breaking rows of shelves on the way. Torn paper fluttered all around. What did you just say? Say it again. Blood flew down from Yixuan's forehead, wetting his hair. His eyes were wide open and filled with intense horror, and his face was covered in disbelief. Hanzio easily got close to this teleportation mage, then deactivated void vision and returned to reality, directly closing the distance between them and catching the opponent. Let my companion out, and don't play any tricks, unless you want your brains to splash all over your bookstore. I give up, don't misfire. Yixuan hastily did as he was told. It's you. Hurlus was surprised. I've seen you before. The other person obviously knew Hurlus and was surprised as well. Before the conversation could carry on, a buzz from a spell appeared in the sky, and the portal appeared again. It seems that Captain is done with that teleportation mage. That was really efficient. Hurless' eyes brightened as he laughed out loud. In the bookstore, the portal was open, and they stared at the light door. Not long after, Hurless flew out, but he was not the only one. Another person followed him out of the light door. There are other people inside, Sylvia exclaimed. Wilsander. This person was shockingly the floating Dragon Island Dragon Guard captain, Wilsander. Hey, it's been a long time. Wilsander was bony and depraved looking as always. Why are you here? Hanzio said with surprise. And coming out of the portal, Wilsander dry coughed and pointed at Hurless. I got in the way he got in. Hanzio's mouth twitched as he figured out what had happened. It turned out, in addition to himself, Ames had also sent Wilsander to find her teacher. Then Wilsander was played by the Dragon Emperor's teacher as well. He found Ixuan and encountered the same problem as them. As a big-time galactic pirate once, Wilsander's mindset was to do things with violence. Hence, he was thrown somewhere else by this teleportation mage. Tell me, where did you send my target to? I don't know, Ixuan said with a trembling voice. Huh, you sure are bold. It seems that you really aren't afraid of death. I really don't know. He asked me to use the random portal, and the coordinate range is the surface of Norios. Since the position is random, I don't know where he went. What we've done is enough. There's no need for us to follow what the target wants us to do. Ames is going to arrive soon. As long as we tell her this clue, our job is considered complete. They left that strange, weird bookstore. There was a new member in the group of people, Wilsander. He thought that he would rather work together with his colleague than act alone. On the way, Wilsander pulled Hanzio aside and said in an apprehensive tone, Are we really going to give up on the target? Will Ames be angry about that? There is no need to. The target is definitely still on Norios. When Ames arrives, it will take no time for her to search through the entire planet given how strong she is. Hence, we don't need to hurry to find him. As long as the Dragon Emperor arrives, he will have nowhere to hide, Hanzio deliberately whispered, as if he did not want anyone to hear. 3 days later, in Norios North Spaceport, where countless travelers came and went, an ordinary space human female was slowly walking, carrying a backpack. In fact, this was someone in disguise. In actuality, it was the target whom Hanzio was looking for, Ames' teacher who had once adopted her in her childhood and guided her to awaken her super talent. His name was Aesop, and his power was foresight. However, as compared to his rare prophetic ability, his race was even rarer. Aesop had been born before the galaxy calendar started. He was an eternal, a being who lived for countless years. Long before Hanzio had contact with the teleportation mage, Aesop had already foreseen that Hanzio and the others would refuse to participate in his game. Under the mask of disguise, Aesop smiled. You used my name, I give you a little punishment. Fair and square. Is that so? Suddenly, a man's voice came from behind, and a hand tapped Aesop's shoulder and stayed there. Aesop's face suddenly changed. He froze and slowly turned around. A stranger stood behind him. This man tore off an extremely thin mask on his face, exposing Hanzio's face. Mr. Aesop Hurricane, damn good morning to you. Hanzio smiled. How did you know I'm here? Aesop was shocked. His eyes changed slightly and flashed with wonder. He did not ask why Hanzio was here, it needed no explanation. He figured it out instantly the moment that he saw Hanzio. He was puzzled by another question at this moment. There were 5 harbors on Norios. How did he accurately find the correct one? He might have heard from Jenny that this black star seemed to be an oracle as well. Good question, allow me to introduce. Hanzio pulled a man from the side, took off the mask on the face of the person, revealing the face of Phaedon. He smiled and said, This is my mascot. You mean by luck? Aesop's face stiffened, and then he looked relieved. Oracles as skilled as him were very clear on one thing. There would never be a perfect plan. Aesop also took off the disguise, revealing his old appearance, and heartily laughed. It seems that my apprentice found a powerful partner. Hanzio smiled as well. Aesop coughed. You've won this game, but I don't want to see Ames. Black Star, can we discuss it? Hanzio suppressed his murderous intent and said with surprise, Do you not want to see your apprentice that much? Back then, I only casually adopted a little girl, spent some time with her, and taught her the method to awaken her super talent. How could I have known that she would go on to become a Beyond Greta whose name has spread across an entire star field? Aesop shook his head. If only I'd known, I wouldn't have adopted her. With her strength, if she finds me, there definitely won't be any way for me to escape. Hanzio's mouth twitched, casually adopting a little girl who turned out to be one of the strongest people many years later. Why does this sound so familiar? Hanzio placed his arms around Aesop's shoulder and whispered to Aesop's ear, I refuse. Aesop's expression stiffened. Why did he whisper then? It gave him false hope. Han Zhao contacted Ames on his communicator. As soon as the image showed up, Ames saw Aesop, who was standing beside Han Zhao. Her beautiful eyes brightened as a tint of a smile appeared on her face. "Aesop, my teacher, I've really missed you." Aesop smiled bitterly. From Ames' tone, he could hear a strong sense of dissatisfaction. Even without using his foresight ability, he could tell that he was in a bad situation. After hiding for so many years, who knew how much unhappiness Ames had suppressed? Falling into her hands would be truly horrible. Then, Ames turned to look at Han Zhao and said, "Wait for me, I'm almost there." The image turned black right after. She was very quick to act. Aesop was frustrated. He turned to look at Han Zhao. "Won't you reconsider? She has already seen you. Do you think I can possibly let you go?" Han Zhao smiled. Not much later, Ames' spaceship arrived at the port. Han Zhao took Aesop to the pier, and Ames saw him as soon as she got off her spaceship. She walked over with a fearsome aura. Han Zhao's hand that grabbed Aesop's shoulder clearly felt the old man's body shiver. Dragon Emperor. At this moment, the pedestrians near the pier were in an uproar. With faces of horror, they hurried back far away. They had not expected one of the strongest people in the Shattered Star Ring to suddenly appear. "Don't you have something to say to me?" Ames was expressionless. Aesop sighed as if he accepted his fate. "All right, I should have come back to see you long ago and shouldn't have hidden from you. Let's not stand here and let others watch. Let's go." As he was speaking, he walked up the gangway. Before entering the spacecraft, he looked back at Han Zhao, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. Ames was about to return to the ship, but she suddenly thought of something and turned around to look at Han Zhao. She paused. With a serious and solemn tone, she said, "Thank you." Han Zhao waved his hand. "It's a small matter. I'm just repaying my favor." "No, I owe you." Ames' tone was unquestionable. She suddenly hesitated before slowly reaching out. The soft black sleeve slid down her smooth arm, revealing her slender white palm, and she patted Han Zhao on his shoulder. She was a neat freak and would never willingly touch others, but this time, she made an exception. Although she looked calm on the surface, she was actually very happy, so she was very grateful to Han Zhao, who had captured Aesop. She knew how cunning Aesop was. She had caught wind of his whereabouts before, but she had ended up disappointed every time. This success surprised her. After a short pat, Ames quickly pulled back her hand and turned around to go up the ship. Han Zhao, however, did not think it was unusual. At that moment, he thought of something and hastily used the blank character summon card in his interface before Ames closed the door, generating her character summon card. "Black Star, since we're done here, where are we going now?" Hurlis asked. "Let's take a break at Norias and leave tomorrow." Han Zhao turned to Wilsander and asked, "Do you want to stick around with us? I'm not in a hurry to go back. Plus, it's too boring to stay on Floating Dragon Island." "Hehe, it seems like I'll have to disturb you for some time." Wilsander gave his standard cheeky smile. "As long as you don't spend my money, you can disturb us for as long as you want." Han Zhao shrugged. As they were talking, the sound of several footsteps came from not far away. The people subconsciously looked in that direction. A group of Godarans in combat suits hurried through the hall, looking to have just arrived. The leader looked brave and extraordinary. "Godarans, what are they doing here?" Han Zhao's eyes were also attracted. He curiously looked at the leader of the Godaran, and his expression suddenly changed. He knew that person. This was a great super. On Ames' ship, Aesop stood before a porthole, silently looking at the distant Norias. "What are you looking at?" Ames asked from behind. Aesop stopped looking and smiled with satisfaction. "You have a good officer. He's trustworthy." "You mean Black Star?" Ames nodded. "He is indeed very capable. Didn't you meet him long ago? You even told him to send me a message." Aesop shook his head and laughed. "I'm old now. I almost forgot about that." As he spoke, Aesop lowered his head, opened the communicator, and deleted a letter that had been set to send at a certain time. The receiver was shockingly Ames, whom he always blocked communication requests from. Aesop shook his head. "If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have come to the Shattered Star Ring into this trap." Aesop knew Ames too well, capricious, arbitrary, not good at plotting. Just as Black Star had asked, if he did not want to be found by Ames, he could have hidden far away. So why did he have to return to Shattered Star Ring? As for his motivation, of course, it was not to tease Ames. Although he was indeed tired of living, his taste was not that boring. His goal was surprisingly Han Zhao. Someone had used his name to deceive Ames. What if this person had found Ames' weakness and deliberately used it to get close to her while harboring ulterior motives? Aesop had been very worried about that. No matter what kind of power Ames had, in his eyes, she would always be the little girl who needed someone to take care of. Hence, he had returned to Shattered Star Ring, exposing his whereabouts and leading Ames' officers to track him down. If Hanzio did not catch him, then this man was only so capable. If Hanzio did catch him, Aesop would start the second round of his test. He had made the follow-up preparation long ago. He deliberately showed his prophecy ability while at the same time angering Hanzio. If Black Star was really the Dragon Emperor's enemy, he would not allow such a dangerous enemy to live. If Aesop died, that timed messages that he had set long ago would have reminded Ames of his death, and the culprit would have been the one who lied to her. Aesop placed his own life, that of an old man, on the line and made a bet. If he died, Ames would not easily believe in others again, which he felt would be very worthwhile. After living for so long, the habit of looking for death had integrated into his blood. It would only make him feel thrilled and excited. Although he looked like he did not care on the surface, he actually cared a lot about Ames. Aesop had no children, so Ames was like an adopted daughter to him. Of course, Hanzio did not know that his casual words to convince Ames back then on Floating Dragon Island would cause such a butterfly effect, leading the two of them who had never met each other in his previous life to meet for the first time, indirectly changing the fate of hundreds of trillions of people. Black Star, Aesop thought, very promising guy. If he lives for 1,000 years like me, he will be 100 times more horrifying than I am. With his help, Ames will at least have an easier time. In his previous life, Aesop had wandered everywhere and was a mystery shopkeeper in the player's eyes. But one day, he was dragged into a conflict between two star system civilizations. As always, he carried out a game. However, having walked along the shore for so long, it was inevitable that he would get his shoes wet one day. Aesop failed, and it cost him his life. He did not meet Ames again. After 100 years of searching, Ames only saw Aesop's tombstone in the end. Ames did everything based on her mood, and she acted out of impulse. She vented her rage and smashed every planet in the territory of these two civilizations, including their mother planets, ending countless lives. The survivors not in the territory at that time filed a complaint to the three universal civilizations. Such a violent act severely violated the lawful accords. So Floating Dragon lost its privileges and was besieged by numerous armies. At that time, a large number of players accepted missions and took part in the siege. Countless battleships were destroyed in the battle, as was Floating Dragon Island. Although Ames did not die in the battle, she disappeared. The renowned Beyond Greta from the Shattered Star Ring was never seen again. Of course, that all happened in a very late version. Since Hanzio had captured Aesop, if he let Ames meet Aesop, it would be something that had not happened in his previous life, so he did not know how it would turn out. Nonetheless, the tragedies of two civilizations with trillions of civilians being slaughtered, Floating Dragon Island destroyed, and Ames being heavily injured should not happen again. After helping Ames catch Aesop and completing the mission, Hanzio had been in a good mood. However, when Hanzio saw a bunch of Godara warriors rushing over, his mood plummeted. He recognized the Godaran's battlesuits, and these warriors were not low-grade observers. Instead, they were special forces that specialized in battle, and their leader was a super who had been extremely famous in his previous life. Nagakin, an officer of the War Bureau, grade a pugilist. He would only take action during important missions, and for him to appear on Norios, it meant that something important was about to unfold on Norios. A thought suddenly popped into his head, and Hanzio immediately thought about the mixed-blood Godaran that he had met a few days ago, Alvin. The two should probably be related. Hanzio thought to himself. There was another strange sight that puzzled him. The Nagakin in front of him was majestic and full of valor. His strides were wide, and every step of his was taken with stability. In Hanzio's memories, when the players of Planet Aquamarine first met Nagakin, he had been half crippled. Half of his face had been reduced to a skeleton, and not only was he disfigured, his left arm and both legs had turned into prosthetics. He had also needed numerous life support systems to be injected into his body in order for him to be alive. It was less than a year away from version 2.0. As such, Nagakin must have been crippled during this period, but the exact time was not certain. Hanzio's eyes flashed, and he immediately sprang into action. He broke away from the upper echelons of Norios and stood in front of Nagakin. "Who are you? Don't block the way." The Godaran warriors stopped, and Nagakin looked at Hanzio with a frown. Hanzio introduced himself simply. "Black Star. Oh, I've heard your name. You and some other mercenaries successfully destroyed a Dark Star mothership. Good job." Nagakin nodded and did not take it to heart. A figure of his caliber would only be concerned about more important matters. He only knew about Hanzio's name because his subordinate had mentioned it in passing. At that very moment, he was pushed for time, so he asked impatiently, "Why are you stopping us?" "I only wanted to say hi. At the same time, I wanted to ask if you guys needed help." This was a common phrase that players used to start a conversation with NPCs. Hanzio was also trying to see if he was able to receive a mission and understand the Gotoran's reason for appearing there. He was lacking intel and did not know that Dark Star and Gotara were having a confrontation on Norios. He only felt that something was strange. He casually replied, "We do not need your help. I'm pushed for time and will take my leave now." After finishing his sentence, Nagakin moved past Hanzio and led his men away. Studying the backs of those Gotorans, Hanzio stroked his chin and muttered to himself, "I wasn't able to activate a mission. For a Calamity grade super to take action personally, it's probably a risky mission." Since Nagakin did not welcome outsiders, Hanzio would forget about the matter. He would not lower himself and continue sticking to them uninvited. He then opened the interface. After obtaining the AIM's character summon card, he had not checked its effects yet. Force field, Gaze of the Dragon, compress the medium within a certain area, and target a single character. The targeted character will fall into a status. For every 100 points of STR the target has, 1 second of control time will be reduced. Basic control time, 18 seconds. Usages, 0 divided by 1. Hanzio felt that the strong control effect was still acceptable. AIMS had many different skills, and at her level, almost 70% of her skills were useful. While he did not obtain an attack skill, a control skill was more flexible and had its own advantages. Just when everyone was resting, a storm exploded. Nagakin took dozens of Gotoran warriors and aircrafts and arrived at a skyscraper at the periphery of Norios' City 4. Nagakin's gaze was solemn as he clenched his fists. The golden flame began to flow down his arm as though it was liquid. His fist smashed onto the outer wall of the building. The entire building began to let out unsteady creaks, and the middle of the building bent slightly like a wooden pole that was almost smashed in half. Not to mention a building. It was a piece of cake for a Calamity-grade pugilist to destroy even a battleship. After destroying the building with a single punch, Nagakin charged in with his subordinates and attacked the enemy base. Upon entry, he immediately spotted Forsyth and the others, who were in a daze. Nagakin made a few hand signals and the Gotoran warriors surrounded Forsyth's troops. He then said in a deep voice, "I am Nagakin from Gotara's War Bureau. All of you are surrounded. Drop your weapons and surrender now. I will send all of you to Rainbow Prison." The building was shaking unsteadily, and Forsyth finally managed to steady himself. Revealing a malevolent smile, he chuckled as though his prey had fallen into his trap. "It seems like we've caught a big fish. Nagakin, look around you. Who do you think is surrounded?" 2 powerful auras exploded and trapped Nagakin's troops in the middle. Nagakin hurriedly turned around only to see Anar and Ember glaring at him. The intense killing intent seemed to have frozen the space around him. "Why are there 2 Calamity-grade supers? There is an error in our intelligence." Nagakin's face changed drastically. Alvin's intel had stated that the strongest person pursuing him was a grade B super. For Gotara to send out a grade A super, it could be considered a foolproof plan. Anar and Ember did not appear in front of Alvin's doppelganger, and Forsyth had acted as the leader. As such, Alvin had believed that there were no Calamity-grade supers in the team. Nagakin's face was solemn, and he knew that it would be difficult for him to escape alive. Taking in a deep breath, "We will die today." The pugilist's flames covered his entire body, and the aura exploding out of his body matched Anar and Ember's auras. He then got into his fighting stance, and a resolute gaze could be seen in his eyes. Gritting his teeth, he let out a deep roar. "Before we die, let's fight." Norios emergency report. 10 minutes ago, a building in the periphery of City 4 was attacked, and 3 streets were completely destroyed. The bus station is completely crippled, and the number of casualties is being calculated. According to initial analysis, the cause of the destruction is a fight between supers. More details will be released after further investigation. For them to create such extensive destruction in such a short time, it is probably a battle between Calamity-grade supers, Hanzio said with a deep tone. He immediately thought about Nagakin. Considering when he had met Nagakin, he felt that it was extremely possible. However, this had nothing to do with him. He had not activated any missions from Nagakin, and since there were no benefits, Hanzio did not care about the matter. Beep beep. Right at that moment, his communicator rang. An unknown number was calling him. Hanzio accepted the call. The next moment, Nagakin's figure appeared on the screen. He was breathing heavily, and his entire body was covered in blood and wounds. He was obviously in an extremely pathetic state. "Black Star, please help me," Nagakin said with grit teeth. "I have a mission to fetch a character who betrayed Dark Star from Norios. His name is Alvin, and Dark Star sent forces to chase after him. The other party has 2 grade A supers, and I fell into their ambush." Nagakin described the situation honestly. While he knew that revealing the truth about two greatest supers might cause Hanzio to act warily and not help him, Nagakin would never hide the strength of his enemies and deceive mercenaries. He was an extremely straightforward person, and even if he knew that the mercenaries might reject him, he would still tell the truth. Who are the two greatest supers of Dark Star? I am not sure. Nagakin shook his head. What are their abilities? One of them is able to reduce the human body to ash and can control a large amount of dust to form various weapons. If I did not raise my defenses with my energy, he would have been able to slowly peel away my flesh. A cold glow flashed through Hanzio's eyes, and he said, Carbon element control, Ember. He had originally thought that this fellow had died in the explosion of the battleship, but never had he expected that Ember had actually escaped. Furthermore, he had even entered the Calamity grade. What are the abilities of the other one? Hanzio asked. He is a shape-shifting Esper. He can change into a strange flying creature roughly 4 to 5 meters tall. It seems as though he has the ability to control the flow of air. He is extremely fast, and it is difficult to follow him with the naked eye. Shape-shifting. Wind pressure. Hanzio's mouth contorted. Could he be the Wind Demon Anner? Dark Star had a limited number of greatest supers, and according to the abilities that they had displayed, Hanzio was able to guess their identities. Nagakin bit his lips as he waited for Hanzio's response. He silently prayed that Hanzio would not reject him. Hanzio seemed like his last chance. After a long while, Hanzio shook his head. It is too dangerous to fight two greatest supers. Nagakin's expression froze. While he had expected the outcome, he was still a little disappointed. However, your mission isn't to kill the both of them, right? Hanzio asked. As long as Alvin is able to leave Norias alive, your mission will be completed. The problem now is that your Godoran reinforcements require time to arrive. Thus, we only need to stall for time and help Alvin escape from Dark Star. If this is the case, I can try helping you. Nagakin's eyes lit up. He was overjoyed. At that moment, a new mission was shown on Hanzio's interface. Nagakin's request. Mission introduction. You have agreed to help Nagakin. His mission is to save a Dark Star trader. Mission requirements. 1. Aid Alvin in hiding until Godara's troops arrive. 2. Kill all of the pursuing Dark Star forces. Failure conditions. 1. Alvin's death. 2. Nagakin's death. Rewards: 5,800,000 experience, 240,000 Inas, plus 850 relationship with Godara faction, plus 30 Alvin favorability, plus 30 Nagakin favorability. There are 2 mission requirements. It seems like it will be easier to stall for time, Hanzio thought to himself. While it was more straightforward to defeat the enemy, the other party had 2 Calamity grade supers. Just a few of us will be far too little manpower. Let me find more manpower for you. He then turned around to Hurlis. Go through the Mercenary Alliance and issue a recruitment notice near Norias. The target will be all the mercenaries in the vicinity. As long as they can rush over in time, we want them all, as many as possible. What should we write for the person issuing the mission? Hurlis asked. Nagakin or Godara? No, their names aren't the best option. Hanzio shook his head. Use my name. In the past year, Hanzio had completed plenty of missions, and because of the backing of Floating Dragon, he had built up a large network consisting mainly of large mercenary groups including the likes of top-notch armies such as Blades, Purple Gold, and Sky Ring. While Black Star's position in the mercenary world of Shattered Star Ring was not considered top-notch, he was considered a first-rate small mercenary group. Many mercenaries wanted to build a relationship with Black Star and tap into his connections to gain better missions. After all, the rich employers usually wanted to hire the best mercenaries, and the Mercenary Alliance would only issue these missions to the lower-grade mercenaries if the large armies did not accept them. The people at the top ate meat while those below drank the soup. This was pretty much the situation everywhere. At the very front of the group, a clapping sound could be heard, and everyone turned to take a look. Seeing the legendary Black Star before them, the noisy crowd slowly became silent. Their gazes were all fixed on Hanzio as they sized him up from head to toe. They were all interested in Hanzio's connections but did not think too highly of his personal strength. The majority of the mercenaries were wild and untamed characters. Everyone, I am the one who issued the recruitment notice, and I believe that all of you should recognize me. I shall not introduce myself, and since we are all mercenaries, I shall skip the pleasantries. I received a difficult mission with bountiful rewards, and I require more manpower. Many of them were thoroughly frightened by the 2 Calamity grade supers and backed out immediately. At the same time, they stared at Hanzio in disbelief as though they were looking at a dead man. You actually accepted a mission that requires you to face 2 grade A enemies. Have you seen how powerful Calamity grade supers are? Don't drag me down if you want to die. Our mission isn't to fight the enemy, but there will be some risks, Hanzio said in a deep voice. If any of you aren't willing to accept the mission, you may leave now. For those who stay behind, after this mission is over, I will sign a cooperation contract with all of you to enjoy my resources. Many mercenaries did not dare take the risk and took their leave. The crowd began to thin, and Hanzio did not stop them. Only 100-odd people were left behind. They were the mercenaries who were willing to take the risk. 3 mercenary groups, 17 lone mercenaries. There are 4 grade B supers and the rest are grade CS. This is better than my expectations. Hanzio nodded. Because of the limited time, he did not dare wait too long, and it was not too bad for him to hire this bunch of mercenaries. Because of the destruction caused by the battle between the greatest supers, Dark Star decided to change to a new secret base to discuss their next move. Nagakin had found some helpers, the Black Star mercenary group. So what if he's found a bunch of mercenaries? What can they do? They are no more than a bunch of weaklings. Anna was completely unconcerned. Ember's gaze turned cold. Black Star again. I have given him a chance already. Ember no longer placed Hanzio in his sights, but since Black Star wanted to interfere with his mission, he had to wipe out all obstructions. You can take people to catch the doppelganger. I alone will be sufficient to get rid of the mercenaries. Ember stood up. With my abilities, I will crush them all in less than a minute. I will meet up with you after taking care of this matter. Ember walked into the mercenaries' base and was already prepared to unleash a massacre. However, the place was covered in darkness and there was not a single person inside. Everyone abandoned the base and took action with the Godoran. It seems like this was a wasted trip. I'd better regroup with Anner. Ember was expressionless. Just when he was about to turn around and leave, the lights lit up in the base. Don't go. I have been waiting for a long time. Ember's eyes narrowed. I know this voice. He looked up and looked at the camera in the corner. Black Star. Ember, this is the nickname that Dark Star gave you, but you do not have a real name. When you were very little, you were accepted by Dark Star. They were interested in your talent, and they treated you like a weapon, forcing you through endless strict training. You are not a Godoran, but you were brainwashed with a hatred that does not belong to you. Ember clenched his fists tightly before releasing them slowly. He did not have any intention to argue with Hanzio. All of the other mercenaries have left. Why are you the only one left behind? To wait for you, of course. A metal door opened, and Hanzio walked out with his gaze clashing with Ember. Sparks flew. Dark Star had sent out 2 Calamity-grade supers, and Hanzio had guessed that they would try to fully utilize their advantage by sending one of them out alone. Ember's expression was odd. You want to hold me back alone? Not really alone. Hanzio shrugged his shoulders. By his side, a light flashed, and Arashia drifted beside him. Apart from her, there were another few useless mercenaries in another monitoring room with their attention focused on the screen. Hanzio had left them behind on purpose, and their mission was to ignite the explosives that were laid all around the building to hold Ember down. Ember's tone became cold. Even though the rest aren't here, it isn't too bad to get rid of you. I will be able to fulfill a small wish of mine from the past. A rustling sound could be heard as though there were numerous grains of sand rubbing against each other. However, this rustling sound quickly turned into the sound of rushing waves. Around Ember, countless carbon atoms had already formed a mysterious black cloud that was rapidly expanding. The next instant, hundreds of machines were activated. The scene was truly breathtaking. Those compressed orbs had been set up by him before the battle. The entire base was a trap that he had laid. 30 to 40 Black Panther mechanical beasts pounced out, their shoulder cannons spitting fire non-stop. On the ceiling, the mechanical spiders gleamed coldly as they scuttled around. Other than the Black Panther mechanical beast, Hanzio was also able to manufacture smaller machines, such as the mechanical insect series. Other than spiders, he could also produce centipedes, scorpions, and wasps. Philip launched a unified attack, commanding all the machines to fire toward the ash. The black carbon particles that were originally saturating the air contracted inward to form a sphere, with Ember wrapped inside it. Seeing this, Hanzio's face twitched. This is the carbon shield. It's practically cheating. At this time, Ember's indifferent voice could be heard inside the ball of diamonds. Even if you planned a trap in advance, even if you are immune to my carbon deconstruction, in the face of my current strength, you only have one outcome. Defeat. Boom. The next moment, the diamond sphere transformed into a black-colored wave, slapping down with a force that could destroy mountains. Dozens of the mechanical beasts were caught within, and they turned into a pile of scrap metal in the blink of an eye. What a strange force this is. It can instantly cripple the armor of my mechanical beasts. The black wave welled up, slamming on the golden shield. The scene resembled one where waves from the sea dashed against the reefs, only to be split apart to move on either side instead. Under Ember's control, the split waves recombined behind Han Zio, rushing from his back this time. While he was confident in his tanky body, Han Zio had no desire to let his tender skin be exposed to such a horrifying force. I have to be more careful, Han Zio reminded himself. Even as the thoughts spun in his head, the Void Dragon mechanical suit covered his body. He strode with large steps toward Ember in assault mode. There was no way of him breaking past Ember's defense from mid-range. He had to get within close range to be able to have a chance. Arashia turned into a stream of light, penetrating into the diamond sphere that enclosed Ember. The carbon particles within could only cause her energy body to swell up but were unable to perform an effective attack, since she was highly immune to physical damage after transforming into energy. The rays coming from an energy explosion shone out from within the diamond sphere. Ember had eaten a close-range energy bomb from Arashia. Unable to retreat, he could only choose to deactivate his diamond sphere, turning it into a flat shield to ensure his visibility. He felt extremely uneasy in the presence of Arashia, whose energy form made her immune to physical damage. The carbon particles surrounding him wildly spread out, no longer clustering together. They turned into a black-colored sandstorm, drilling into the various machines and destroying their internal circuits. Sparks flew out as a large number of machines became crippled. Ember coldly laughed. The majority of your machinery has gone to waste, and I can destroy your mechanical suit sooner or later. By that time, what other methods will you show me? What other methods, you say? Han Zio chuckled twice before his tone suddenly turned ferocious. Then, I'll let you experience it firsthand. His mechanical force gushed out, and as though a shockwave of electricity, it swept across all the machinery present. The next instant, the crippled machines were reactivated with, and all of the weapons came back to life, awaiting orders. The war mechanic class was one that was born from war itself. The mechanical roar resounded once again. Ember was caught unprepared and was blasted flying. His face was blackened with soot, and he quickly blocked the follow-up attacks using this Esper abilities. He wished to change the battlefield, and going out into the open would allow his combat capability to increase a few folds. Ember did not realize that his attitude toward Han Zio had imperceptibly changed, from the disdain and contempt early on to now, where he had even begun to consider the effect of the battlefield. He could clearly feel a sense of pressure from Han Zio, from a grade B super, a pressure that this was an opponent who could threaten his life. At that moment, Han Zio strangely did not retreat but rather rushed toward the dangerous cutting tornado as he shouted, "Explode." Boom. The mercenaries in the surveillance room hurriedly detonated the explosives, causing the base to collapse. Numerous building materials fell down and buried the area. Han Zio greatly respected any calamity grade super, so he had prepared and buried a huge payload below them. Detonation was an art, and due to his positioning of the explosives, the entire floor of the building collapsed. The duo entered a state of weightlessness as they rapidly fell. Bits of debris and rubble ricocheted around them, and their vision and breaths were obscured and stifled by the thick clouds of dust. The momentum caused by the explosion was so large that it was as though an entire mountain had shifted. Suddenly, a lump of black shadows appeared in front of him, obscuring his limited vision. Ember jumped in shock. He was totally blind, and no matter what he tried, he was unable to escape from the cage of shadows. Furthermore, this thing could not even be touched, so he had no idea what contraption this was. A large hand from the mechanical suit firmly latched onto the back of his head, and without any warning, a void jet spray was discharged directly. At the same time, Han Zio utilized the skill from the Germinal organization's leader's character summon card. In the next 5 seconds, all his attacks would have a certain chance to break the armor of his enemy, reducing his defense by 24%. Boom. Ember felt as though he was struck by lightning. His brain shook, and stars flew in his vision, causing his Esper ability to dissipate for that instant. He ignored the cost of energy, releasing burst after burst of void jet spray. This was the additional ability granted by the Void Dragon mechanical suit. While it had no cooldown, the energy consumed would rise by 30% if used again within 10 seconds. The energy of the mechanical suit was spent at a torrential rate, with the voice of Philip constantly sending out warnings. The last void jet spray completely drained the energy in the mechanical suit. Ember could clearly sense this point, and he endured the splitting pain in his head, hoarsely saying, "You have no more energy left. Just wait for me to drag you out from your turtle shell." I'll turn you into mincemeat." When Hanzio heard this, he gritted his teeth and lowly shouted, "Arashia." Arashia was not affected by gravity at all, merely following beside both of them, her body easily phasing through the rubble. When she heard her name, she turned into a beam of light and accelerated, sticking to Hanzio's back. She opened her arms and embraced him from the back. Her energy body was like melting ice, flowing into the core of the mechanical suit. In an instant, the Void Dragon mechanical suit's energy capacity shot through the roof. Energy levels at 327%. Circuit is overloaded. Please expend the excess energy as soon as possible. To Hanzio, Arashia's energy was the biggest reserve battery for him. Hanzio's tightened his hand, holding Ember's head as though he was clamping it with tongs. "Energy, I'm not lacking in that. Are you ready for a severe concussion?" "Every time. It's the same every single time." This beastard has all sorts of schemes. The continuous series of explosions drowned whatever thoughts he had. The duo slammed into the ground, the impact jolting both to their bones. A mechanical arm pushed off a large boulder, and a figure could be seen climbing out of the rubble with difficulty. Ouch! A few of my ribs were fractured. Hanzio felt a dull ache in his chest. An entire building had crashed down on him, and even with the powerful defense of his Void Dragon armor, its durability had fallen from the original 67% to about 30%. The dust cloud was blown away by the strong wind, and Hanzio could see a thick, black wave that was double the size of before. Now that he was not in a building, Ember was able to gain access to a never-ending supply of carbon. All of a sudden, the black current condensed into a large, lifelike python, which was 2 to 3 meters thick and 100 meters long. The body of the python stood erect with its snake head looking at Hanzio, sticking out its tongue. It looked as though it was truly alive. On top of the snake's head, Ember's figure could be seen. He should have been full of elegance and majesty, but he was currently looking a little pitiful. His attention is fully on me, as long as I can hold him back when Nagakin succeeds on the other side. He would not lose his cool just because he had the upper hand. He was very clear that he would be the one suffering if the battle continued. He did not continue battle, and the thrusters of his Void Dragon mechanical suit began spewing fire. Hanzio shot into the sky and began to flee. "Don't think of escaping," Ember roared furiously, and the python under him shot into the sky to chase after Hanzio. "Escape. This is a strategic retreat." Numerous black spears shot over, and Hanzio avoided them nimbly in midair. Turning around to take a look, Hanzio heaved a sigh of relief. Thankfully, Ember gave chase. That fellow was indeed infuriated. Avoiding a head-on confrontation and letting Ember chase him would allow him to buy the largest amount of time. A notification sounded in his helmet, and Hanzio accepted the call request. Nagakin's face then appeared in front of him. Alvin's doppelganger has been brought to safety. Anner destroyed 2 streets, but thankfully, a passing Calamity-grade tourist was dragged into the fight and decided to help out. Black Star, hang in there. We will come back and reinforce you immediately. Nagakin's voice was filled with anxiety. The way he saw it, it was far too dangerous for Hanzio to be delaying Ember alone. He had been afraid that Hanzio would already have beaten before he called. Turning off the communicator, Hanzio's eyes glowed. With Nagakin fulfilling his part of the plan, there was no need for him to entertain Ember any further. He then turned around and turned on the speaker in his helmet. "My comrades have already forced Anner back and will be here to reinforce me soon. If you still want to continue playing with me, I shall accompany you," Hanzio said in a tone filled with delight. Ember had a look of hesitation on his face and was extremely reluctant. He was stuck in a dilemma where he could not advance or retreat. Continuing the battle would only be a waste of time. The sound of the sirens grew nearer, and Ember realized that Hanzio had already reduced his speed, looking as though he had no fear. Ember's expression was ice-cold with a sharp pain coming from his wounds and the dizziness reminding him of the condition of his body. The pride and arrogance that he had after entering the Calamity Grade had vanished during the battle. "It is my mistake. I underestimated you too much. Next time, regardless of your strength and the machines around you, regardless of whether you are in your prime or severely injured, I will not be careless." He then calmed his anger with a complicated look in his eyes. After one last glare at Hanzio, Ember resolutely turned around. The black snake crumbled into a dark cloud and escaped with him like a black mountain demon. "We meet again, friends," Alvin greeted everyone. After saving their target, Hanzio and the others began discussing their next move. If Dark Star want to have any progress, they only have 2 choices. First, search for Alvin's main body, which will be like finding a needle in a haystack. Second, snatch his final doppelganger from us. Thus, we have the initiative, and Dark Star is on the passive side. They will be anxious. Nagakin, how much longer will it take for your reinforcements to arrive? The War Bureau sent the fleet nearest to us, but even if they make use of the Stargate, they will take 12 days at least. Dark Star won't ignore the incoming reinforcements and will definitely send their fleet to hide near Norios. Bang! Before they could come to a decision, Arashia's body suddenly swayed, and she crashed onto the table with a loud bang. The few of them turned over to take a look. She was currently holding onto her head with her eyes in disarray, and brows furrowed as though she was in great pain. What's wrong? Hanzio got up immediately and held onto Arashia's shoulders. Arashia rubbed her temples. It is like, there is a voice calling out to me in my head. It seems to be getting closer to me. I can feel its position. Hanzio's brows were raised, unsure of what was going on. Because of Arashia's sudden outburst, the meeting ended abruptly. In the end, they followed Alvin's thought and chose to lie in wait while waiting for their reinforcements. While Nagakin displayed his worries toward the Dark Star troops who were chasing after Alvin, Alvin seemed to be extremely confident in the situation of his main body and was certain that it would not be found. After knowing that the call was coming from the sky and not too far away, after a series of questions and investigation, it was very likely that the location Arashia was referring to was an empty port in Norios. The thing calling out to you is inside. It seems like it is really something alive. We have to find a way to go in and take a look. Hanzio's expression turned solemn. At this moment, the member of staff in charge of this region walked over. Do you guys recognize the person inside the warehouse? The three of them turned around and Hanzio asked, what's the matter? It's like this, the spaceship inside landed in the warehouse 3 days ago. However, no registration was made, and the fees haven't been paid. All of our requests for communication were rejected, and the person on the spaceship did not disembark either. If you guys know him, please pay the fees. Wait a moment, why didn't you chase him away even when he didn't pay? Because his spaceship is a reconnaissance ship of the Federation of Light. This is the symbol of his status. Our Norios financial group won't chase away such a high-grade ship so easily. The staff's words were extremely reasonable. In truth, I am also not sure if we know him. A black spaceship over 100 meters long was currently parked in the warehouse. This small-sized spaceship was extremely nimble and was the normal size of a reconnaissance spaceship. Its shiny black exterior reflected the view of the warehouse's interior. How could the great mechanic Han not recognize the spaceship? He immediately knew that this was the Black Light Stealth. Not only was it expensive, its build quality was exceptional. Hanzio immediately felt some pressure. A figure who owned such a spaceship definitely would not be a simple character. If the person was hostile, it would definitely be very troublesome. There still was no communication, and the hatch to the Black Light Stealth opened up as though the owner was inviting them in. This spaceship gives me a feeling of familiarity, and I think that I have spent a long time inside the spaceship before. I may even have experienced something extremely important, but I cannot recall anything. Authority verification complete. Welcome back, Captain. Numerous flashing lights began to fly all around the cockpit before a figure of light was condensed in front of the three people. The figure of light immediately spread his arms and hugged the stunned Arashia. I've finally found you, comrade. You recognize me. Who are you? Arashia reached out to touch the man made of light. However, her palm phased through. Hanzio observed that there was no physical sensation in the person with narrowed eyes, confirming his suspicions that this man in light was a holographic projection. The hologram of the man slowly looped once around Arashia, akin to a fish swimming in the air. His tone was dispirited as he muttered to himself. I guessed correctly. Your memory circuit has malfunctioned. You were supposed to rest and recuperate after completing your task, allowing your thoughts to get used to this new body. Otherwise, it will result in sequelae such as a loss of emotions or memories and will require recalibration. The minds of the trio present were at a loss. Hanzio was suddenly jolted, and he blurted out, "Are you called Rista?" The hologram turned around with a weird expression. How do you know my name? Did she tell you that? No, that's not right. She has already forgotten me. Just who are you? In the mission, the reward of the mission mentioned Rista's name. Successful completion of the mission would raise the favorability of said person toward himself. Thus, Hanzio guessed that this person would not be an enemy. Seeing that Rista was wary of him, Hanzio explained his identity and briefly described the circumstances in which he met Arashia. After hearing his story, Rista floated in front of Hanzio before giving a deep bow. He gratefully replied, "Many thanks to you for helping AL51004. If it was not for you helping her to recover a portion of her memories, the censor would not have been able to locate her whereabouts." What does the serial number mean? It was her original name. Just what sort of life form are you? Are you an energy-based life form? No, I'm in fact an AI life form. You're an artificial intelligence. So, are you the core system of this spaceship? You're wrong. An AI life form is not a system, nor is it limited to one body. We're a type of life form, and this spaceship is merely a temporary tool for me to move around in the world. Rista pointed at Arashia, his tone full of nostalgia and familiarity as he spoke. She was originally supposed to be the same as me. We upgraded our programs together as we grew up and supported each other in many difficult situations. We could be considered confidants who would share data within ourselves and also war comrades that fought side by side. She's very important to me. While I'm extremely grateful to you for taking care of her, we have an important mission to carry out. Hence, I'll be bringing her away. I hope you can understand. Hanzio kept his expression, narrowing his eyes in response. Are you trying to steal my people? Are you kidding me? I took great lengths to nurture Arashia into one of my capable officers, and with just a sentence, you wish to sever our relationship. Do you not feel guilt at all? So what if you two are childhood sweethearts? Your father here is the current male lead. Hanzio's eyes gleamed as he replied, I believe you should ask Arashia for her opinion. Don't decide for her. The two of them then turned to look at Arashia, whose expression appeared a little hesitant. The entire scene went quiet in an instant. This scene made Hanzio think of a scenario where the child was asked to choose which parent they would follow after the couple divorced. Whatever it was a strange scene. Only 3 seconds passed before Arashia stepped toward Hanzio, stating, You may be right, but I really cannot remember you right now. I only remember that Black Star saved me, so I won't follow you. Rista was helpless. If the other party was unwilling, how could he take them away? He had no other ideas. Since he could not persuade her, he could only compromise. No matter what, he had to ensure that he stayed by Arashia's side. I understand, Rista said in a depressed tone. I'll stay behind and accompany you until you regain your memories. Hearing this, Hanzio secretly let out a smile. Because of her amnesia, all Arashia could remember was himself. Thus, she definitely would not choose someone else. This was a situation where he could not lose. Wait a minute, why did it feel as though he was the old man next door who was taking advantage of the wife while the husband was out? Shaking his head, Hanzio threw away this strange feeling. Don't be overjoyed. I haven't allowed you to stay. And I won't, not unless you tell me what happened in its entirety. Maybe I can also be of some help. Rista was left in a predicament. He was not able to take Arashia away, but he did not have any misgivings toward Hanzio. After all, it was Hanzio who had saved her. Alright then, I'll tell you everything. This matter has to be explained from the beginning. Hearing Rista's story, the three of them had looks of disbelief on their faces. Undying Army, a super strong mechanic. Hanzio almost spat out a mouthful of blood. These two labels were far too unique, and he almost thought that the other party was describing him. Of course, this was not possible. The great mechanic Han knew who this mechanic was. This mechanic was far too famous, and it would be impossible for him not to recognize that character. This beyond grade a mechanic had been the highest grade teacher of the mechanic class in his previous life. Furthermore, he was one of the main characters in the main storyline of the later version. He had naturally formed a faction of his own. To think that this would be related to the main storyline in later versions. Just what kind of a person did I save? Hanzio rubbed his temple and felt a huge headache. My goodness, version 2.0 hasn't even started. Can we still play properly? Without even thinking, Hanzio was able to guess what the final target of would be. It would definitely be to reactivate the independent consciousness of those AI life forms and save them from the demonic hands of a beyond grade a big shot. Could this mission be any more dangerous? Do you think that I am a SHT digger who loves to find SHT? I have already told you the truth, Rista said. Regardless of whether you are willing to help, I must stay behind to wait for her to recover her memory. Hanzio regained his cool and thought about the pros and cons of this matter. If Rista stays behind, does this mean that we will be able to use this black light stealth temporarily? Hanzio's eyes lit up immediately. The Black Light Stealth was a high-grade spaceship that was worth tens of millions of ENAs. From activation to hyperdrive, only a couple of seconds were required. It was the Maserati and Bugatti in the spaceship world. Hanzio's communicator suddenly rang. Opening up his communicator, Hurla's anxious face could be seen. Black Star, bad news. Dark Star found Alvin's main body. Hanzio's expression changed immediately. We're on our way. After receiving the news, Hanzio hurriedly returned to the base with the other two. He then saw the solemn expressions on the faces of everyone in the base. Walking over to the conference room, he saw that the main battle force was present in the conference room at the moment. He then saw Alvin, who was seated at the end of the table and was stunned. Since Alvin was still sitting there alive and the mission had not failed, Hanzio immediately guessed what was going on. You should have told us earlier that this is your main body. Sorry, I was afraid of a leak. Information that only I know will not have the risk of being exposed to the enemy. However, Dark Star has already seen through my little trick, and their next move will be to take the initiative to attack and get rid of me. Alvin said weakly. I can only rely on all of you to protect me. Apart from the ground forces giving chase, Dark Star would certainly have sent out a large fleet of spaceships to wait outside the atmosphere. To Alvin, this was a hopeless situation, and he could only struggle for his life. With a large fleet lying in wait outside the atmosphere, they would definitely be surrounded if they attempt to escape in a spaceship. They had to make use of the small instant before Dark Star's fleet launched their attacks to escape. However, this was almost impossible as it demanded a lot from the spaceship. However, there was a spaceship that could complete this high-level requirement at the moment. Rista's Black Light Stealth. With just a short charge up, the Black Light Stealth would be able to jump into dark space. Hanzio suddenly thought about the Ranked S mission. He had a feeling that Alvin could become a key to helping him in his mission. While he still had it in his hands, he would only be able to obtain the lowest reward. Hanzio would naturally try to aim for a high accomplishment rate for these high-ranked missions. It would be a waste for him to just end them with a mission completion card. Hanzio was still prepared to hold on to the mission completion card in case of any disgusting missions in the future. Dark Star won't hesitate, and they will arrive soon. Hanzio's voice was resolute, and he slammed the table to draw everyone's attention. We do not have much time to prepare. Listen to me, I have a plan to send Alvin out of Norios. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. We have to split our forces into two. Nagakin and the majority of us will stay behind to delay the enemy forces. Irashia will take Alvin to find the teleportation mage to send them to the port. Not only will it be able to save time, they will also be able to throw off their pursuers. You will then find Rista to leave Norios with Alvin. Hanzio's gaze was solemn. While the plan sounded simple, it was actually full of risks. Dark Star had 2 Calamity-grade supers, and one of them was Ember, who had a large AoE skill. The most important point was that they did not have much time to prepare, and could only rush their actions. His side only had Nagakin and Hanzio who could attract Ember's firepower, and ensure that Ember did not have the energy to harm others. Hanzio did not think that they would be able to deal with Anner and Ember without making sufficient preparations. They only had a single choice: split up the battlefield to split the enemy forces up. Thus, they had to let the enemy know that Alvin was escaping. That way, they would be able to split the enemy forces in two. It was akin to splitting up the risky elements, even though the plan was still extremely risky. However, they had no choice but to take the risk. Time was tight, and Hanzio hurriedly handed out the missions. Everyone anxiously got to work, hoping that they would be able to speed up their actions. After preparing for less than 10 minutes, an explosion erupted. A powerful wind pressure attacked the building, and everyone lost their footing from the powerful gust of wind. However, they had all been mentally prepared and jumped out of the building and onto the streets. In midair, Anner looked down at them with wind pressure circulating around his body. Ember was also in midair and was currently standing on a 100-meter carbon tornado. A powerful pressure descended from the skies, and everyone felt their hearts tighten. The collapse of the building caused a huge dust cloud to be formed. The commotion was huge, and there were many spectators in the surroundings with looks of exasperation. Not again. Can you guys stop your destruction? Just as Hanzio had expected, Anner first glanced over the area, and upon realizing that the traitor was not around, his expression darkened. He then began to look around, and with his altitude, he saw an aircraft escaping at top speed. The one riding it was Alvin. I saw them. The tubes on Anner's back let out a sharp shriek, and just when he wanted to speed up to give chase, Hanzio let out a loud roar. Stop them. Bang! Nagakin jumped up into the air and intercepted Anner's figure. The wind pressure shield was instantly shattered, and the both of them shot in 2 different directions like arrows. They want to stop us from chasing the traitor. The traitor should be our target. I will hold them back myself. Don't get tangled up with them. Give chase. Hearing that, Ember's expression changed, and he glared at Hanzio hatefully. You are lucky that I don't have the time to play with you. His mission was the most important, and Ember suppressed the killing intent in his heart. With the black cloud transforming into a snake, his figure shot out of the battlefield and gave chase to the escaping Alvin. The time is too tight, Alvin said. You said that the teleportation mage is in City 8. If we maintain this speed, we should reach it in 15 minutes. However, Ember will catch up to us around that time. Barashia ignored him completely and fell into a daze. From afar, Ember still did not give up the chase. Amid the tall, towering buildings, a black snake charged straight through rapidly, chasing after an aircraft that was constantly changing its route. The majority of my normal battle methods are useless against him. His speed is too fast, and he is even able to turn invisible. It is very difficult for my weapons to hit him, and he does not even need to touch us. As long as he flies past us, the wind pressure that he generates will attack us. Nagakin isn't able to match him in terms of agility in the sky. Even if Nagakin's fists and shockwave blast are powerful, it's useless if they cannot hit the target. He will only end up being toyed with. Hanzio analyzed the situation calmly as he fired his weapons. Just as he was observing the enemy, Anner was also observing him. So, he is Black Star. Anner studied Hanzio carefully. This was the first time that he met Hanzio personally. Since that useless student of mine is unable to get rid of you, let me do it instead, Anner muttered. Right at this moment, the ground began to shake. 20-meter-tall mechanical poles rose up from underground and surrounded the entire battlefield. Those mechanical poles lit up at the same time, and a large blue concave protective shield was formed. It looked like an upside-down bowl and had a diameter of 20 kilometers. Norios had taken action to cut their losses and restrict the battlefield to this region, which was already unsalvageable. They wanted to stop the battlefield from being spread further to protect the other regions of the city. This action of theirs was equivalent to giving up on that region of the city, but in comparison to losing the entire city, which spanned a few thousand kilometers, this was a wise decision. It seems like we created too much chaos. Anner's eyes narrowed. With such a big commotion created, they would not be able to stay on Norios for too long. The moment that Alvin died, they would have to retreat from Norios immediately. The appearance of the protective shield made Hanzio worry. While the lockdown of the region seemed to be restricting Anner's movement range, it was actually extremely disadvantageous to them. It was as good as freeing Anner from his wariness. In the locked region, Anner could unleash all of his strength without any restraint and turn the entire region into a cyclone of destruction. The cyclone was still expanding, and Anner was currently flying in a clockwise direction like a ray of light stirring up the atmosphere. The protective shield was only so big, and Anner was prepared to go all out and create a cyclone that could fill up the entire protective shield. If we allow him to continue, when the cyclone is completely formed, everything within the protective shield will be destroyed, and even his subordinates will not be spared. Is he treating his subordinates as chess pieces to abandon? Nagakin's tone was heavy. With his experience, he could already foresee the ending. Since they could not catch up to the other party, there was no way for them to stop Anner. What is your most powerful attack? What do you mean? Nagakin asked with doubt. I have a way to make Anner stop. I should be able to restrict him for 10 seconds or so. He will not be able to move or use any of his abilities during that time. This is the only chance that we have to severely wound him, Hanzio said with a deep voice. 10 seconds or so. Are you really able to restrict Anner? Nagakin asked with disbelief and thought that he heard incorrectly. 10 seconds to someone of their level was no longer a chance but the difference between life and death. However, how would the Grade B Black Star be able to restrict a Calamity Grade Super for 10 seconds? Just believe me, Hanzio replied. Hanzio narrowed his eyes and fixed his gaze on the Wind Demon, which was moving at a high speed. Raising his hand up to target the Wind Demon, Hanzio concentrated fully. Victory and defeat would be determined in an instant. Right at that moment, a frightening energy signature burst forth from Hanzio's body. The entire atmosphere seemed to have been frozen in place. A woman's hand appeared behind Hanzio and stretched out her palms toward the incoming Anner. That's Dragon Emperor Ames. Nagakin, Anner, and the Protector were dumbfounded. Is currently determining the target's STR. Target's STR, 466 points. Judgment complete. Anner has fallen into status for 14 seconds. As though a golden bolt of lightning had been smashed into his chest, Anner's weak wind pressure shield was shattered, and the sound of Nagakin's fists smashing into Anner's body sounded like thunder in the clear sky. Nagakin had been accumulating the force of this strike for a long time, and its might could shake the mountain and blow cities away. Those fists of his were sufficient to destroy an entire district. The two of them trapped Anner in the middle and gave him a good serving of their attacks. Without the wind pressure shield, Anner could only endure the attacks with his physical body, and was beaten up to the point his bones were shattered and his flesh was mashed up. His broken bones protruded out from his skin, and blood gushed out like a fountain. The badly battered Wind Demon landed on the ground and reverted to his human form. Injuries could be seen all over, and his entire body was covered in blood. He was like a broken gunny sack, and the bleeding would not stop. Anner spat out a mouthful of blood and breathed weakly. He was already nearing his end and could not even stand up. He glared at Hanzio fiercely with the look of shock and anger in his eyes. To think I would actually die here. There was still the last strike left, so he raised his hands to stop Nagakin. He had to deal the final strike himself so that he would be able to gain the experience points from killing the enemy. Hanzio did not hesitate and raised his high-frequency strike cannon. Looking at Anner's furious eyes, he smashed it down toward Anner's chest. The blade penetrated through Anner's back, but not much blood flowed out. At this moment, almost all of Anner's blood had already flowed out. Anner's body shook, and he grabbed onto the blade. His eyes became listless as he looked up at the sky. His lips parted, and he said his final words in a voice that no one could hear. Dark Star, forever. The next moment, he released the blade, and his hands collapsed onto the ground. Life had left this body. You killed Anner. You have received 24,700,000 EXP. You have jumped more than 10 levels to slay the target. You will get 280% additional EXP bonus. Your personal damage is 13%. You have received an additional 8,990,000 EXP. Hanzio was not surprised that his damage output was so low. Nagakin was the one who had dealt the truly fatal blow, and it was more accurate to say that Nagakin had killed Anner while he picked up benefits from the side. Of course, without his character summon card, Nagakin would not have been able to kill Anner. Hanzio had never imagined that he would be able to get rid of a Calamity Grade Super. For a Calamity Grade Super to die in battle, Dark Star will probably go crazy from anger. Because of a traitor, they lost 2 high-grade combatants and suffered a huge loss. I will probably enter their sights and face a far greater risk than before. Hanzio let out a sigh. As for Dark Star placing their attention on him, Hanzio was not too anxious. Once version 2.0 arrived, he would have to solve the mutation disaster and come into direct conflict with Dark Star. Dark Star was an enemy that he would have to deal with eventually in the main storyline of version 2.0, and this is only a matter of time. Looking up at the sky, a black cloud could be seen floating above him, and Ember's figure could be seen. He had finally rushed back. Looking at the miserable battlefield through the protective shield, Ember was visibly shocked. With his gaze sweeping over the battlefield, his eyes were suddenly fixed on Anner's corpse, and the shock on his face turned into fear. Perhaps it isn't completely useless to bait Ember back. Allowing him to see Anner's corpse and dealing him a psychological blow isn't too bad either. The upper echelons of Dark Star gave an emergency order to Ember. Give up on the mission and leave Norios immediately. We will send a fleet to pick you up. After losing an important member of the organization, we cannot afford to lose another one. Originally, he had been the one giving chase, but the roles had been reversed, and he was now the escaping party. Ember was indignant about his loss, but he had no choice and could only swallow his indignation. Turning off his communicator, Ember escaped at top speed and did not dare delay for a second, afraid that the enemy may catch up to him. In truth, it was impossible for Hanzio and the others to leave the protective shield. Those from Norios wished for Ember to scram as quickly as possible, and Ember did not know that there was no one chasing him. After Hanzio and the others were freed from their predicament, they were immediately requested to meet the upper echelons of the financial group. The financial group was getting ready to settle their scores, and they had to give Norios a suitable amount of compensation. Look at what you have done on my planet. After seeing his appearance, Hanzio felt that he looked extremely familiar. All of a sudden, Hanzio remembered seeing a picture of this person before him. A couple of days ago, he had still been playing a cat and mouse game with Aesop. Aesop had requested for him to steal an accessory. After he asked Philip to make a search, Hanzio had found out that the accessory was something that the head of the Norios financial group had purchased his wife. The person in front of him was the head of the financial group. Just what was he called again? Rockfish. I am the owner of this planet, the man said with a calm voice. I know who you are. Nagakin from Godera, Willcinder from Floating Dragon, and Black Star also from Floating Dragon. Because he belonged to Floating Dragon on the surface, the Black Star mercenary group was deemed a part of the Floating Dragon army. My subordinates are currently calculating the exact damage, and we shall negotiate the details after they are done. Rockfest did not give the two a chance to interrupt and spoke without allowing anyone to refute him. I will report this matter to headquarters, and Godera will compensate your losses. Black Star is only a mercenary who I hired, and his actions were part of my request. Godera will never shortchange our friends, and Godera will compensate you on his behalf. With Anner being killed, Nagakin was in an extremely good mood. Don't worry, I never intended to seek compensation from him. Upon hearing that, Rockfest looked toward Han Zio with a smile, and his tone became gentler. Give my regards to Ames. He actually isn't asking for compensation. Han Zio immediately felt goodwill toward Rockfest. You know Ames. Hahaha, who in the Shattered Star Ring doesn't know of the Dragon Emperor? Rockfest said with a laugh. I heard about your arrival as soon as you stepped onto Norios. Meeting you in person, you are even more powerful than in the legends. Rockfest took the initiative to reach out, and Han Zio shook his hand. Smiling without saying a word, a thought suddenly surfaced in his head. Your Excellency Rockfest, Han Zio said, I actually have something that I wish to request and hope that we can find some time to discuss the matter. Alright, I will give you my personal number. Rockfest nodded. After this matter is over, we can talk about it in detail. So, what request do you have, Black Star of Floating Dragon? Han Zio was once again seated in Rockfest's luxurious property, but this time, it was a private meeting between the two of them. My mercenary group is the Floating Dragons field team, and we have been operating for 1.5 years. It is time for my mercenary group to expand. With the prestige of Ames on my shoulders, I cannot continue to have little battles and skirmishes. Blades and Skyring should be the target of my Black Star mercenary group. The stronger the field team, the stronger Floating Dragon will be. Rockfest's eyes narrowed. Is this Ames' order? You should understand that Ames would never bother about such affairs. Han Zio replied. I am the one in charge of the field team, and this is my own plan. I knew that it wasn't her idea, Rockfest said with a smile that did not seem like a smile. How much money do you want? How much are you willing to give? Han Zio threw the question back. Rockfest immediately changed the subject. Up until now, I have provided 9 sponsorships to Floating Dragon, a total of about 24 million. And this will not be the final figure. I intend to keep sponsoring Floating Dragon. Jenny and I can be considered old acquaintances, and the benefits that she brings me are the reason that I will not waver in my investment. Enjoying the prestige of Ames, I am able to earn a profit that is to my satisfaction. After saying those words, he kept quiet and looked at Han Zio with a smile, obviously waiting for Han Zio to say what sort of benefits he could provide. Han Zio smiled and suddenly said, I believe that you have my information in your hands. If that's the case, you should know that I have a bunch of undying warriors under me. Yes, Rockfist nodded. I have also noticed that they are not with you right now. They are natural-born mercenaries, and their numbers far exceed your imagination. I know all of them, and expanding my mercenary group also includes expanding my numbers. I do not need to hire any other mercenaries on the market. With your investment, I will be able to rapidly expand my forces and become a large mercenary group. At that time, I will give you satisfactory benefits. Even if you have Jenny's approval, you will require the appearance of Floating Dragon's troops to help you persuade the other party at times, right? What about a large mercenary group willing to accept your private hire at no cost? Han Zio selectively revealed some details of his plans. In order to persuade others to invest, he would naturally have to paint a picture of the possible benefits. I will not invest. What a pity. Han Zio shook his head. You missed out on an investment that could bring you endless benefits. At that time, Rockfist added, however, I can give you a loan, 4 million enas and a 3-year limit. On account of Floating Dragon, I will give you a simple interest plan. If you return the money within a month, I will not charge you any interest. Paying me back after 1 year and before 2 years, I will charge you a 10% interest. More than 2 years and before 3 years, 20% interest. Above 3 years, 40% interest. These are my conditions. Han Zio's mouth twitched. This interest rate was truly explosive. If he exceeded 3 years, it was enough to make his pants explode. Alright, I agree. Han Zio nodded. He was not worried about paying back the loan. Version 2.0 would be launched within a year. As long as the players returned, Han Zio would probably count money to the point that his brain would cramp. Not to mention returning the loan, even if he wanted to buy the whole Norios financial group. Cough cough, he still would not be able to afford it. Just when he was in thought, his communicator rang, and head butler Jenny called. Her expression was unfriendly, and she immediately interrogated Han Zio when he picked up the call. Rockfest already informed me that you sought a loan from him. Why didn't you inform me beforehand? Jenny, would you have agreed? Don't call me Jenny, you should call me head butler. And, of course, I don't agree. Jenny's tone was strict. She had never believed in expanding, and setting up a field team was an unnecessary expenditure to her in the first place. Ames would never require a powerful army. Then why should I tell you? Han Zio replied. He understood Jenny's personality. She was an individual who wanted extremely tight control of business and finances. She would never agree to the expansion of the field team. I command you to return the loan, Jenny said in a tone that brooked no argument. Without my permission, you are not allowed to accept any form of funds. Jenny's attitude was extremely forceful, and she looked as though she would not let Han Xiao off if he chose to defy her. However, the great mechanic Han was not afraid of her, and it was impossible for him to return the money. He then briefly explained the benefits that his actions could bring Floating Dragon, and without bothering whether Jenny accepted his words or not, he hung up. This action of his frustrated Jenny greatly. Her desire for control was great, and for Han Xiao to take a loan without getting her approval made her feel as though her position of head butler was being challenged. After Han Xiao cut off the line, Jenny made a call of complaint to Ames without any hesitation. She explained everything that had happened to Ames and added her own opinions. She felt that Han Xiao's field team had too much freedom and needed to be controlled. It would be best to transfer him back to the headquarters of Floating Dragon and remove the field team completely. She felt that since Floating Dragon wanted to maintain neutrality, it was sufficient for them to be dragon guards. There was no need for them to have an armed force operating outside. Under normal circumstances, Ames would not reject her proposal. However, Ames unexpectedly rejected her. You are too nervous. It is just a bit of money, and there isn't a need to make a huge fuss out of the matter. I trust Black Star, he is someone reliable. Since I gave him the right to operate freely, as long as he doesn't become a wanted fugitive, you don't have to inform me. If there isn't anything else, I am hanging up. But Ames hung up the line, and a stunned Jenny was left behind. She held onto her communicator with a dazed look. In the mysterious headquarters of Dark Star, 10 or so individuals were gathered in a hall. Some were present physically while others joined the meeting through a holographic projection. Anner died in combat, and the traitor was saved by Godera. This mission was a complete failure. Before the traitor gained access to the top-secret intel, I froze his authority, the person in charge of intelligence said with a hoarse voice. The intel in his hands is only a small portion. This is the only good news. Is the traitor aware of the mutation virus? No, he isn't aware about our plan. This requires a higher level of authority. That's good. This is an important step in our plan, and nothing can go wrong. It won't be too long before the virus spreads, and Godera will be forced to send out a great deal of manpower to protect the affected civilizations. We will be able to seize the initiative. The leader of Dark Star then paused and changed topics. I am extremely disappointed in the outcome of this mission. Not only did we let the traitor escape, we had even lost a calamity-grade doyen. Ember, you have truly let me down this time. Ember clenched his fists and said with difficulty, something went wrong in the mission. You are trying to say that as long as something goes wrong, you won't be able to handle it. Ember noticed the chill in the leader's voice and lowered his head without answering. At this moment, another member spoke up. This was your first mission after becoming a grade A super. To think that the outcome would be so embarrassing. Aren't you ashamed? I truly wonder if you have the right to be in this room. The one who spoke was another respected calamity grade who had even more influence than Anner. He was the vice leader and the right-hand man of the leader. Ember's clenched fists tightened, but he did not retort. I saw the mission report. Godera's Nagakin joined hands with a mercenary to kill Anner. That mercenary is called Black Star. The Dark Star leader changed the topic and did not allow the others to continue blaming Ember. It was sufficient to warn him, and it was not necessary to humiliate him. He is Ames' subordinate, and I do not wish to have a conflict with someone like the Dragon Emperor before the start of our mutation virus plan. The leader of Dark Star said, I will make that mercenary pay the price, but not now. He has caused us to suffer losses over and over again, and he is an enemy whom we must eradicate. We cannot wait any longer. Ember could not help but retort. The one in charge of intelligence said calmly, according to my intel, Black Star is building a base on planet Golden Gate. That planet is within Godera's territory. If we want to get rid of him, we will have to send a large fleet. To incite such a huge battle with Godera at this important stage, do you want to ruin the organization's plan? This is worth it. Ember grit his teeth and insisted on his view. Enough. The leader of Dark Star interrupted Ember. From now on, cease all other activities on the outside until the mutation virus spreads. I do not wish to repeat myself. The meeting shall end here. All the upper echelons did not say another word and went offline. Those who were there personally left the meeting room. Only Ember was left in his seat with a look of indignation. Looking at the empty room, a trace of anger flashed through his eyes. As time passed, all of the mutation sources that Dark Star had stealthily placed in the planets began to awaken. It's like this. In 2 days, there have been over 2,700 violent incidents globally, and over 100,000 people have been affected. This is only the information that we have managed to find out. Their bodies heated up when we detained them, and they are unconscious. The result of the doctor's check was that their brain activity was far higher than usual, resulting in their organs being overly excited. According to the information from our informants, this is also the same as those who were detained by the 6 nations. All of them fell unconscious, Bennett said with a tinge of shock and fear. Is this a kind of virus that can spread? It doesn't spread to everyone. A small portion of the refugees were awake when they were detained. They were able to clearly describe the entire situation, and their testimonies are shockingly identical. They all said that they felt a sudden outburst of anger and the urge to destroy some items to vent their anger. Our doctors have checked the bodies of these conscious individuals, but did not find anything strange. If this is truly a virus that cannot be detected, I'm afraid that the number of infected individuals will be. Thinking about that, Bennett could not help but take in a breath of cold air with his expression ugly. The war is over and peace has finally been restored to the world with great difficulty. Why would something like this? All of a sudden, he thought of Han Zio and the prophecy of a calamity that he did not believe. However, the scenario before him was actually extremely similar to Han Zio's words. Could it be that Black Phantom's words were true? Bennett suddenly stood up, pushing his chair over. As he hurriedly put his coat on, he left the room. Prepare the plane. I am going to Black Phantom's Sanctuary 3. Roughly a year ago, you guys first reported abnormal sightings. At that time, I did not notice it before, but right now, the matters seem to be connected to the strange sightings you have seen. Your group are the elites personally picked by Black Phantom himself, and with his ability for disaster prediction. I would like to hear your thoughts on this matter. Because the trio were elites that Han Zio had personally asked Bennett to take care of, he did not limit their freedom. Aurora's Esper ability allowed her to sense lives, and the huge surge of life force that she had detected that vanished after a few days had allowed her to memorize the scent of that life form. This was one of the functions of her ability to record life signatures. The signatures were like a unique brand, allowing her to differentiate between each life form. While the huge life signature was short-lived, Aurora discovered that the scent of that particular life form was spreading, with increasing numbers of life forms having that particular scent on them. It did not differentiate between plants or animals. Aurora spoke in a timid voice, slowly explaining what she had felt. Bennett's face grew graver as he listened. If this is a sort of virus, then hundreds of millions of people could be infected in this world. That's not right. If we include the various flora and fauna, then the infected amount will truly be terrifying. Aurora looked at everyone, hesitating for a moment before mustering her courage and pointing at Huang Yu. He has that smell on him as well. Huang Yu's face blanched. He immediately felt around himself, exclaiming, I don't feel it. While I don't know the reason, it seems like only Aurora can tell apart who is infected or healthy. Everyone turned to look at Aurora. She trembled, before blinking her large eyes as she nervously stuttered, I can really be of help. Aurora seemed to be extremely happy to hear that. She had always been under the protection of others and had been looking forward to the day that she could return the favor. After flipping through the report, not only did Emerald Grass not show any hints of shock, her face even revealed some form of fanaticism as she exclaimed, I was right, my instincts were right. Indeed, my entire year of research has not been wasted. The moment she spoke, everyone immediately looked over, their expressions those of shock. What do you mean? Bennett asked. Follow me. Emerald Grass immediately stood up, walking straight out. The rest could only follow her from behind. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.